Are you a purpose-driven dentist? Do you care or give back to your community? In today's world, big corporations and small business owners alike are becoming more socially responsible. Whether the business supports the planet or a social cause, today's patients want their dentist to do the same. Smile on You provides every dentist the opportunity to give back and the chance to be associated with a mission-driven purpose. Become a Smile on You dentist when signing up for our online dental listing. Here are the 3 different online packages to choose from. The Helper at $500, the Good Samaritan at $750, the Philanthropist at $1,000. For just one dental treatment you do pays for your listing. Not only will the online listing allow you to promote your dental services, be associated with a mission-driven purpose, but you will also have access to all the features Smile on You dashboard has to offer, including unlimited access to edit or upload new content to your profile, unlimited access to additional basic analytics about your listing, including views and top referrers. Make Smile on You your dental practice social mission. Be a part of a global dental network that is working to help and support underprivileged communities. Go to smileonyou.com and sign up today. Are you a purpose-driven dentist? Do you care or give back to your community? In today's world, big corporations and small business owners alike are becoming more socially responsible. Whether the business supports the planet or a social cause, today's patients want their dentist to do the same. Smile on You provides every dentist the opportunity to give back and the chance to be associated with a mission-driven purpose. Become a Smile on You dentist when signing up for our online dental listing. Here are the 3 different online packages to choose from. The Helper at $500, the Good Samaritan at $750, the Philanthropist at $1,000. For just one dental treatment you do pays for your listing. Not only will the online listing allow you to promote your dental services, be associated with a mission-driven purpose, but you will also have access to all the features Smile on You dashboard has to offer, including unlimited access to edit or upload new content to your profile, unlimited access to additional basic analytics about your listing, including views and top referrers. Make Smile on You your dental practice social mission. Be a part of a global dental network that is working to help and support underprivileged communities. Go to smileonyou.com and sign up today.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us here on a Saturday morning. Yeah, a chilly Saturday morning, but it's going to be very nice today. So I'm glad it's only a half day. We can have a nice lunch together, and then you guys can do whatever you want for the rest of the day. Welcome. If you haven't been to True Abutment before, this is their HQ, learning center, everything like that. Everything that they make is either made here or in their building just down the street. Pretty impressive facility, to say the least. I remember the first time I was here, I was pretty amazed. This building is huge, and a very nice courtyard area and everything like that. And I'm lucky enough to work with them a lot, and they just have some really amazing things for dentistry, and they solved a lot of problems that we had, especially in the CEREC world, that you know, we use them now and we go, boy, how did we ever survive without it? My name is Dr. Storm Hagen. If you've been to one of my lectures before, you've heard this spiel before. But basically, I owe my career in dentistry to CEREC and to digital dentistry. My dad's a dentist, my mom's a hygienist, and I'm an only child, which means that I am cheap labor. So when I grew up, I was in the office, you know, sterilizing, charting, you know, filing, assisting later on, things like that. And I could not understand why my parents wanted to stick their hands at people's mouths. It just didn't make any sense to me. I was always into technology and things like that, and when I was a kid, we didn't have any of that. It was paper charts, stone models, things like that. None of that particularly interested me. And then it all changed when my dad got CEREC about 22 years ago. And that got me into the office. And my dad's moderately tech savvy, but not super tech savvy. So I was always there, you know, just playing with the machine or installing updates, things like that, messing around. And then at one point we had 2 offices and only 1 CEREC machine. So the other office would take impressions and send it over to our other office. And it was my job as a high school student or maybe late middle school, something like that. I would scan the models and I would design the crowns and things like that. And then I would batch them all. My dad would come through and say, okay, looks good, looks good, looks good. Oh, fix this, change that, that looks good. And that was my first experience with CEREC. And that was with CEREC 3. That was before 3D. So there was no 3D picture on the screen. It was lines, height of contour line and margin line and things like that. It was very, very, very old school. And that's how I learned to stain and glaze and things like that. So getting into the office and seeing things like that, and then seeing how you get to talk to patients all day. And, you know, dentistry is really a nice combination of art and engineering. It's so much more than just sticking your hands in people's mouths. So that's really what I owe my career to. And otherwise I would be working for, you know, some tech company or something like that, and you know, sitting on my desk all day just typing away or something. So I really love what I do. I love the combination of getting to talk to people all day long, get to work with your hands, right? It's very satisfying, very gratifying when you make something that fits and looks good and is going to serve the patient well. That's fantastic. So how many here have ever restored an implant using CEREC? Just by a show of hands. Couple, okay. How many have been frustrated by restoring an implant with CEREC? Anybody? A little bit. Was it a super simple process? Was it, no. Yeah, that's. Hagen there with us. Okay, yeah, okay. So I had somebody walking you through it. Sometimes it's not that simple, and there's definitely some very specific ways to go about it, and there's very specific requirements that you have to fulfill, and if the case does not meet those requirements, especially if you're not using the true abutment system, it can be a nightmare. If everything works out perfectly and it's all lined up and things like that, well, yeah, it can be very easy. It can be as simple as milling a regular crown. So I'm here to show you some of those pitfalls. I'm here to show you kind of what the true abutment system is about and what problems it solved that we were maybe having before. And I want you, when you leave here today, to feel comfortable restoring, you know, maybe not a implant that could have maybe been placed a little more straight, but restoring a well-placed implant. I think you should be very comfortable with that when you leave here today. So just a quick overview here. This is what our agenda looks like today. So first, we're going to cover implant overview, the different materials that we have available to restore those, and how we're taking impressions, the true abutment system, things like that. We're also going to have some information on staining and glazing EMAX. I'm sure people are doing that already, but we have our wonderful rep, Lauren from Ivoclar here, so she's going to give you the correct way to do it, because every time my dad or I go into an office, it's funny how these things get passed down from one person to the other, and all of a sudden you're storing EMAX in the freezer because it goes bad for some reason. I mean, that's true. That's a true story, by the way. You know, just one assistant tells this person, and then it's just like, okay, we were just so far off the beaten path. We're going to take a quick coffee break after that. We're going to come back in here, and we're going to do some hands-on design on the computer. So there's the CEREC software is loaded on all of these computers, and I have a case that we've already scanned. So be able to go through and design a crown digitally, okay? And then we're going to shoot on over to the other room, and we'll do some hands-on staining and glazing. So we can practice staining and glazing some crowns, just like the food channel, the crown that you designed on the computer, I happen to have pre-made already. So we'll stain and glaze those. We actually will bake them as well. We have some ovens here. So while we're baking them, we'll do a little quick Q&A session, and then we'll actually be cementing those onto a tie base as well today. So we have all the materials to do that. And then we'll have lunch. So, restoring implants with CEREC. Let's talk about the couple ways that we can do it, right? So this is not CEREC, this is just implants in general, right? We can either do it screw retained, right? So the crown has a hole in it. We're screwing that crown into the patient's mouth and then covering that access hole with some Teflon and composite, okay? In this particular case, that involves 2 components that you'll need, right? So one is obviously going to be the crown. And the second component is going to be a tie base. So this is your abutment essentially, right? It's going to go into the implant. The crown's going to get cemented onto it. That's happening outside the mouth. And then we're screwing that down in the patient's mouth, okay? If we want to go cement retained, well, very similar, only we're going to need a middleman, right? So we're going to need our tie base still. That's going to be our interface to the implant. We're going to need a custom abutment, which we're going to mill out of Emax or zirconia or something like that, okay? And then we're going to need our crown, and this is going to be bonded outside the mouth, and then these are going to get attached inside the mouth. Very simple. This is not new stuff if you've restored an implant in any single way. Let's talk about restoring implants with CEREC. So I think that probably the most confusing part, regardless of whether you're using CEREC or just restoring implants in general, is just there's a lot of parts, and they all don't, you can't fudge them together. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit, and there's no way around it. So you've probably heard these terms before, a scan post. Okay, what's a scan post? Okay, well, a scan post is basically an impression coping, okay? What this does is it's going to tell the computer, it fits into the implant, it's specific to the type of implant, and it's going to fit in there, and it's going to tell the computer where that implant is in the patient's head. That's all it is. It has a fancy name, scan post, but it's an impression coping. This stays with you, it doesn't leave with the patient, okay? We have a scan body. A scan body fits on top of the scan post, so it's this little cap, and it's going to snap onto the top. The reason for it, and the reason for the scan body is when the computer looks at the image, the model that you've taken, the only thing it knows is, can you see this little peak, this little pyramid on the top? The only thing the computer knows is the pyramid. It knows nothing else. It doesn't really know or care what this is or how high or anything like that. All it knows is there's a pyramid on top of that that's asymmetrical, and that's the only thing that it's looking at. So when it can't sit on the top because you got to screw this down and there's no hole in it. So that's why it's a separate piece. So after we screw it down, we put the scan body on top. Next is going to be the tie base, okay? So the tie base is basically our abutment, right? So this is going to leave with the patient. These two stay in your office. They can be sterilized, things like that. This is leaving with the patient. Now, you can take an impression using the tie base. Also, you could take a scan. This scan body will fit on top of there, but it is not advised. And the reason for that is the scan post is quite a bit taller. The tie base is a lot shorter. So it can be very difficult. This is keyed. It's got to be lined up in a certain way, and I'll show you how to do that. But in a tie base, that's going to be way down below the gingiva. And if you get that, like I said, the only thing the computer looks at is that scan body. So if you get it misaligned, your crown is going to be misaligned. It will not be lined up. It doesn't matter if you seated the scan post or the tie base correctly. If you don't get that cap on there correctly, the only thing the computer knows is which way that cap is rotated. So that's why if you can avoid taking a scan with a tie base, I would. It's not recommended. Okay, the next thing we have is obviously the implant block, okay? These are special blocks. They are not, you cannot, at least with a CEREC 4-axis mill, not a lab style 5-axis mill, you cannot mill an implant crown without a special block with the hole already in it, okay? And the reason for that is there's a little notch right here that prevents the implant crown rotating on that tie base, and our 4-axis mills cannot mill that, okay? So this block you need to order special. There's different sizes and things that I'll go over as well, okay? And the final thing is obviously implant cement. So whether we're cementing the screw retained crown outside the mouth or we're cementing that custom abutment outside the mouth, we're using a special cement, and that's multi-link hybrid abutment cement, okay? This is, if you're doing any of that work, this is what you need. And get this, the yellow one, the high opacity, okay? It's super opaque because we're blocking out titanium, okay? It's self-cure only. It is not light cure, okay? So you just put it on there. You can hit it with a light if you want. Not gonna do anything, but yeah. And it's the self-cure only is super, super opaque. Okay, that is the best cement to use. It's very, very strong, and it's the best cement to use to bond those components together. And again, we'll go through all that. So kind of what we talked about earlier, right? You can see here the difference between, I mean, this is not quite to scale, but the tie base would sit, the top of the tie base would be about right here. So it's quite a bit shorter. So where this notch is engaging now, if you figure the gingiva is maybe about here, is way above the gingiva in that case. If you're using that and you're trying to make sure that this notch is aligning on there, it can be very, very difficult. And this is plastic, so if you took an x-ray, it's not going to help you. You're not going to be able to see if it's aligned or anything like that. But once again, scan post, impression coping, stays with you, stays in your lab, gets sterilized, never leaves. Tie base, think of it as an abutment, leaves with the patient. It's going in the crown. If you guys do have any, oh yeah, go ahead.
Is the tie base usually the lab that does it, right?
Correct, lab that does it, or if you're making it yourself, then you would order the tie base. Exactly right, yes. And if anybody has questions, please just shout them out. Yeah, no problem. So let's go through a case. I think the best way to, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, mention the plastic tape on the stem pass and scan, but it should be visible on the barcode for the scan.
I'll go over that in a second. I'll go over in a second, yeah. Okay, so let's talk through a case. So say we've got tooth number 19, okay? We've got a Nobel Active conical implant, okay? Our surgeon or we placed it or somebody placed it, right? And we know it's a Nobel Active 5.0, which is a regular platform, okay? So how do we go about restoring that? So what's the first thing that we're gonna do? The first thing we're gonna do is, well, we gotta know what parts we need before we get the patient in, right? So if we didn't know, I mean, I restore a lot of Nobel implants, so I know a 5.0 is a regular platform. But if you didn't know that, maybe you've never restored a Nobel before, go on their website and find Nobel Active 5.0. And if we look down here and we find the platform, we see RP, regular platform. So any implant manufacturer is going to have that, but you got to do your homework when it comes to these things, because again, you know, if you can modify a prep on a natural tooth, you're not going to modify the hex on an implant. If you've got that's too small, it's just, that's it. The patient's going home. There's no way, there's no fudging. So you need to find out what platform size it is, okay? And then you're going to, right here, so RP, and then we're going to look on our list. So if everybody quick looks on your computer, if you need to find this list, on your left screen, the True Abutment website is open, okay? So you can see it, on my screen is on your right, so if you follow along, if you go to trueabutment.com and you click the little lines at the top, and we go to CEREC Solutions right here, we can find the solution catalog. My advice to you would be to either download this on your computer, and if you want, you can print out this list. Page 9 of that will have the list, okay? And it's very similar to what I'm showing you up here. So I would print that page, have it somewhere in your lab, in your office, something like that as a quick reference guide, because that is everything that you could need for restoring any supported implant by True Abutment, okay? Everybody able to find that on their computer? Okay, good. Yeah, so print that page out, just have it ready, have it handy, download it, whatever. And so once we look at that list, okay, so now we know we're looking for a Nobel, conical, regular platform, right? Those are the things that we need. So we look on our list, we find Nobel Active, okay? Well, is it a narrow platform or is it a regular platform? We know it's a regular platform, great. So we find RP. Okay, what scan post do we need and what are we going to call it in the CEREC machine? Well, we just go straight across and we find we're going to call it NBA 5.0. Okay, so that's what we're going to call it in the CEREC machine, and that's also the scan post that you're going to need and the tie base that you're going to need for that matter. If you have any questions about this, especially for your first few cases, I would always, because you can order these things online, I would call True Abutment and just say, hey, I've got a Nobel Active 5.0 and I need a scan post and a tie base for it. They'll help you out. They'll go through all this and make sure you get the right thing. But after that, you can just order them online, things like that. Okay, and then, so we've got our right parts, we've got everything ordered, okay? So we've got our scan post, we've got our tie base. We know what we're doing. The patient's here now, okay? Now it's time to shine. How do we set this up in our CEREC software? So we're going to go to administration. If you're used to restoring crowns and things like that, then you're used to living up here. This is your left side selector in the CEREC software, right? So you're used to living up here, which is single restoration, single crown, or bridges, right? Well, now we're going to use secret option number 3, okay? So this is the implant button right here, all right? So when we click on that, we've got a few options. The computer's going to present us with a few things. Do we want to do it screw retained? Or do we want to do an abutment with a crown, which is cement retained, okay? So those, my personal preference, I like screw retained. I am very comfortable with that. I like the retrievability of it. Generally, either I'm placing the implants or my surgeon's placing the implants, and we're always using a surgical guide. So it's very rare that I get an off-axis implant that I cannot do screw retained. And it makes me mad and frustrates me. So I am pretty much always living up here in the screw retained crown category, okay? So then as we scroll down, we're gonna follow our normal CEREC flow, right? So design mode, biogeneric individual, all your other flavors of CEREC are there. So we've got copy, we've got copy and mirror, we've got all those things if you'd like. Usually there's not much to copy considering there's no tooth there, so probably not that. So I usually leave it in individual. We're going to choose our material, so what we're using. In this case, we're using Emax CAD abutment. Abutment means it's that block with the hole in it, okay? Emax, there's also some zirconia options as well, if you want to do that. We're using the device. This is all normal CEREC stuff. Now, here's the difference. When we come down here, remember we looked at that chart and we said, we need an NBA 5.0. It's going to ask you right here, tie base. What tie base are you going to use? So you need to plug it in and say, I'm using an NBA 5.0. The next thing it's going to ask you is, how are you scanning this? Remember I told you can scan it on a scan post or a tie base? So it needs to know because those are at different heights and it can do the math to calculate it, but it needs to know which one. And you can change these things after the fact too. So if you mess up beforehand and you scan it, it's okay. The computer is not going to kick you out or anything like that. You can go back in and edit it and it will make the appropriate corrections, no problem. Okay, so in this case, we're being good and we're using a scan post to scan it, and it's automatically going to choose which scan post you're using. So usually this last section is automatically chosen for you. Any questions? That was a lot of information I just threw at you. Good? Okay. When we prepare the scan posts, okay, if you're using an Omnicam, please, please, please sandblast this, okay? And the reason for that is they're fairly reflective, and we all know sometimes Omnicam, especially with like gold crowns and things like that, can be a little difficult to scan reflective things. So the best thing to do is, this part's going to be covered by the scan body, but all of this part down here, not the part that engages the implant, but this part right here, lightly sandblast it to just roughen the surface, and that thing will pick it up really, really easily. Prime scan, not a big deal, okay? And then leading back to your question here, this notch right here, okay, that notch is determining where the sprue is going when you mill that crown, right? So on a normal crown, we can rotate that sprue 360 degrees right around the crown. We can put it wherever we want. Well, that's not true on an implant crown because that block already has a hole in it and that notch is pre-configured in a certain way. So we can't rotate that any way. It's not going to let you move the sprue. So it is very important when you place this into the patient's mouth, you know that the sprue is going at 90 degrees to that, okay? Specifically, it's 90 degrees clockwise, but that doesn't matter too much. So you just need to know, put the notch on the mesial or the distal. Otherwise, your sprue is going to be on a contact, okay? So as long as that's the only thing that you remember, just put the notch on the mesial or the distal. That's the only thing you have to know. You don't have to worry about it. I mean, if you want to get fancy, you can say, well, if I put it on the distal on 19, then it'll be on the buccal, but whatever, you know. Just don't put it on the buccal or the lingual. Yes?
You say, so put it on the interproximal.
Put it on the interproximal, yes, yeah, because it's going to be 90 degrees from that. So if you put it on the interproximal, it'll be on the buccal or the lingual. The sprue will be, yes.
How high is it, the measurement? Because if in that place in the posterior, maybe it's hard, it is too high.
The scan post?
The scan post,
How tall is it?
yeah, plus the,
Scan body? It's not very tall. No, it's not huge. Usually what I see, I mean, if the implant is at the bone level, this probably sits 2 or 3 millimeters higher than the molars around it. So it's not limited. I've never had a problem scanning it because of limited opening. Okay, any questions about the notch placement? Yes, go ahead.
For the previous slide,
Okay.
to sandblast it, can you use the powder spray that you use sometimes
You can. You'll just have to use it every time. I would just sandblast this once and never worry about it again. Yeah, because you're going to keep this, so just sandblast it. Yep. All right, so moving on. So we're going to take our scans, okay? The way that I like to take my scans, and I'll tell you the flow, okay? So say we're going to go back, we're still restoring that number 19, okay? So patient comes in, right? They've got a healing abutment on that 19. They're ready to go. So what I'll do is I'll lean the patient back. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scan the opposing. I'm going to scan the upper, okay? So we'll scan the upper. You can take a full arch scan. You can take a quad scan, whatever you want. I usually prefer to try and get, this is probably a little bit undersized, I usually try and get to the contralateral canine because I like to be able to use the virtual articulator when I'm making my implant restorations. That way I just have the least amount adjustment possible. So think about it, right? On a normal articulator, we need both cuspids if we've got canine guidance to use that articulator. So I'm going to scan all the way to the other side, to number 6. So, okay. And then I'm going to scan the bite. So you can scan the bite, you can do the buccal bite, even with the healing abutment in there. The computer is smart enough, it'll cut that out. So I haven't messed at all with the implant because I know as soon as I take that healing abutment off, right, the gingiva is going to start closing over. I have a limited amount of time. So I'm trying to do everything I can before that. So take the opposing, take the bite. Next thing I do is I'm going to take that healing abutment off and I'm going to scan the lower arch. Okay, and so we've filled upper jaw, we've filled buccal, and now we're in lower jaw. Okay, so lower jaw wants nothing in the implant. This is where you're going to get your tissue. This is where you're getting your contacts, okay? So you're going to take your nice lower arch scan right then. Make sure you're rocking the camera so you're getting those interproximal contacts there. And a good tip when you're restoring this, look at how parallel these contacts are right here, okay? I can see straight down that. It is always smart, before you take that healing abutment off, especially like here, if that 18 is tilted mesially or something like that, take a diamond and make those nice and parallel, okay? It will save you so much headache. And it will save the patient a giant food trap. So that's always what I do. It's pretty much standard. Whenever my assistants set up a room for an implant impression, there's always a handpiece, a flame burr, and some sort of polisher there, always. Even if the case doesn't need it, I'll still use it because it's probably just a little bit or something like that. And I just quickly go in there, polish it, look from the side with your mirror, make sure those contacts are nice and parallel, okay? So I've taken our scan, we've got our contacts. The next step we're going to do is we're going to insert our scan post. So here's our lower jaw scan, right? So we've got everything that we need there. So we put our scan post in. We've already know what size we're using, so we'll go ahead and put that in there. We'll tighten it down. I always take a confirmation radiograph to make sure that's seated, especially with the way implant placement is now. A lot of things are subcrestal. These connections are happening way down below the bone, below the gums, and below the bone. So we need to make sure that's seated correctly. It is very troubling when you don't seat it all the way, you didn't take an x-ray, and then you go to deliver the crown and you go, boy, it looks like it's seated all the way, and you look in there and it's binding on the bone or something like that. The occlusion is perfect, but the abutment's not seated at all in the implant. And then you get to redo it and you get to tell the patient, and there's just nothing good about that. Not confidence, it's by you. Usually because you're talking of, it usually happens when you go, oh, well, I've got this new machine and, you know, look how high tech we are, and then you bring them back in and you have to go, oh, sorry, you have to come back. So we go ahead and seat that, we take our confirmation radiograph, make sure that that's seated all the way, and then we take our scan post scan, okay? And we can, this scan does not have to be as big as your lower arch scan. The only thing the computer is using this for is this right here, the pyramid, okay? So as long as you give it enough data, common data of the other teeth to stitch it with your lower jaw scan, then you're fine. You don't have to scan all the way the contralateral canine or anything like that on this one. It's not using this for the articulator data. It's not using it for any of that stuff. This is the only time you're allowed to overscan. So I think we beat it into your head when we do basic training for CEREC. Don't overscan. The computer's taking 9 million images every second, right? You're going crazy. Blah, blah. This is the only time you can do it, okay? And the reason for that is, you know how your computer's really good, you get a piece of the tongue or the lip or something like that, and it's really good about cutting it out? You know what is also really good about cutting out? This right here, the thing that you need. So if the computer does not see this scan body connected to the gingiva, and this is why if you have Omnicam, sandblasting this is so helpful. If it sees something white just floating in the air with nothing grounding it, it's going to say, well, that's a piece of tongue or a mirror or a glove or something. It's going to cut it out. Okay? So make sure when you take your scan, you're really rolling that camera to the side and you're getting it everywhere and showing the computer, hey, this is not floating in the middle of the air. It is connected to the implant or to the patient. Okay? So just like that is fine. So just make sure you're very, very, very diligent about that. So we do that, we go forward, and we process it. I don't even sit the patient up. The patient is still laying there. And do not let the patient leave, okay? And the reason for that is because we're still making sure that it didn't cut that scan body out. Because you know what happens when it cuts it out and the patient's already home? They get to come back. You can't do anything. You are dead in the water. There's nothing you can do. So I press forward and then I just jabber on about something with the patient, okay? And I let the computer do its processing and I make sure that in the next screen my scan body is there. Because if everything goes right, it'll take you right to the point where you see the scan body and you'll see it there. You'll see that it's not cut out and there's nothing there, okay? I also usually go forward and I'll go to the design phase and just have the computer quickly propose a crown just to make sure there's enough clearance for a crown, okay? Sometimes if, you know, the opposing has super erupted or something like that, there's very limited space. We do have certain space requirements for our tie bases, and also with true abutment, I'll go through their system, but they have different heights and things, so you need to make sure that you have enough room. That's also going to determine if you need to punt the case to the lab as well. If you can't restore it with the tie base, well, the lab probably still can because they can fabricate a custom abutment, but that might change your timeline as well with the patient, so you know how to schedule them and things like that. Okay, so don't let the patient leave until you see a crown on the screen. Basically, the moral of the story, and a good crown or something that looks restorable. You know, the contours don't have to be perfect, but you don't have a bunch of minimal thickness everywhere and things like that. How are we doing on time? Good. Okay. Okay, so this is what you like to see. Basically, when you move forward, all these check marks. So check, 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 check. And it'll either come here or it'll come here, but we see you've got a nice check, click scan body head, and we got a green check. That means the computer already found it. So you know now in 5.0 it draws your margin for you and everything like that. So it'll find that scan body head for you. So it's already told us, hey, great, looks good. We see it, okay? This step is probably something that you haven't seen before. If you've never restored implants with CEREC, this screen does not come up in the general software. Edit baseline, okay? So what is that saying? The baseline is defining where you want that crown to transition from a more horizontal to a vertical, okay, right? Because our implants, the emergence profile, the implant is so much smaller than the root of the tooth or the crown. It's going to have some sort of horizontal component to it. So where you're marking here is you're basically marking where you want that transition zone to be. And usually the computer does a fairly good job. If you're using a healing abutment and not a custom healing abutment or something like that, please make sure that this use gingiva mask is unchecked and off, okay? What that means, gingiva mask means that it's going to look at the gingiva and it's going to use that as that reference point. Well, here we just used a circular healing abutment, so I don't think we want the crown to go like this and be like a popsicle stick or something, you know, coming out like that. We need a little bit more of a natural contour there. So pretty much always uncheck that. And then we can redraw this line as needed. It usually does a pretty good job, but we can redraw that line, make minor adjustments if necessary. We can also rotate it around. The best way, if this crown, it looks pretty lined up, but say it was rotated like this, okay? The buccal and the lingual were offset a few degrees. Instead of redrawing that line, the best way to fix that, and I'll show you how to do this when we do our demo, is actually to go back to the model axis and adjust the model axis. That'll straighten it out for you. So I'll give you an example of that as we do our demo. So moving forward. So let's talk about designing a crown, okay? So everybody's pretty confident with CEREC. You know our acronym, FOCC, formation of a ceramic crown, formation of a CEREC crown, something like that. Well, we follow the exact same design principles. The only difference is now we have to worry about tissue pressure, right? Very similar to a bridge, okay? We have to worry about that underside of the crown, the intaglio. So we're gonna handle the fissure. We're gonna make sure that we have adequate thickness. We don't have minimal thickness issues. And you'll notice, if anybody has ever tried to mill a crown with the 5.0 software, an implant crown that is, with minimal thickness, it will not let you mill it, okay? Different than normal crowns. Normal crowns, you get to have minimal thickness all day. It's up to you if you want to mill it or not and chance it breaking. In this, because it is a FDA approved item, you cannot mill it with minimal thickness issues. It will say, hey, your crown has minimal thickness issues. Do you want me to try and fix it? And you can say yes, or if you say no, it'll just take you right back to the design phase and that's it. You can't do anything, okay? So that's why I always say check the clearance before the patient leaves, because you can't fudge it. There's no getting around it. Yes, go for it.
So at this stage, if you have your minimal thickness isn't met, this is when you were saying you would send for stock abutment to the lab. I mean custom abutment.
Correct.
And
Yep.
can you export this via Serena Connect to
Mhm.
the lab?
Yep.
Okay. And
Yep.
they have all the information they need to make the custom abutment?
Yep, exactly right. You can send it to the lab. And that's one of the last things here. That's one of the nicest parts about taking a digital scan like this is very easy to punt. You don't have to take a new impression. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You just click the bail me out help. Yeah, send to the lab. Or
They don't need, do you need to send them the scan post via mail as well, or no?
nope,
You
because
don't?
it's a standardized system. Yeah.
Okay, so you just tell them I'm using like true abutment.
Yep,
Scan post.
exactly. Yep, I'll include it in the notes. I used a true abutment, whatever, you know, Nobel Active 5.0 scan post. Yep, exactly right. Yeah, or that's exactly right. Or you could send it to True Abutment and they could make you a custom abutment and you could still mill your crown on the top of it. That's also a possibility as well. There's tons of possibilities, and it's all from one thing. And I'll show you that at the end as well. But yeah, it's very easy. If you get in over your head or you thought that implant was really nice and straight, but it wasn't, great, it's seamless. Just maybe schedule the patient out a little further. All right, so next up, so FO, we've got O, occlusion, right? So we're managing our occlusion. That's up to you, your personal philosophies on implant occlusion. I personally like mine to be light and centric with minimal excursive contact, but that's up to you. And you can design it however you want. Like I said, I really like to use the virtual articulator function when I'm doing these as well. Just so I have minimal adjustment, I'm grinding less as that implant, or that crown is connected to that implant, okay? And I just want to do the least amount possible. Truth be told, usually if I have to make any adjustment when I use my CEREC machine, I'm mad. So I have my machine, I'm very comfortable with it, I know what colors and how it's dialed in, and if I have to make an occlusal adjustment, it frustrates me. So in general, I like it to be perfect. The next thing to worry about is contours, right? So we're going to worry about the buccal and lingual, and this is where it differs. You know, sometimes you get really good proposals doing chairside crowns and things like that. You're going to have to do a little bit more design work when we're doing implants. And the main reason for that, unless you're using a custom healing abutment, then the designs are pretty nice. But because you're working on compressing that gingiva and everything like that, sometimes the proposals can be a little wonky, okay? And you'll have to do a little bit more work to do it. I mean, not a huge amount. And once you're comfortable with it, it's not a big deal. But it's going to be probably a little bit more design work than you're used to. Okay, and finally, the last thing we always worry about here, contact. So because when we move around cusp tips or things like that, it's generally going to change your interproximal contacts. So always make sure you check those afterwards, okay? And then the final thing is tissue pressure. So we have to flip this model upside down and we got to see how much we're compressing that gingiva, okay? Too much and the patient's not going to be very happy with you. Probably the tissue might not be very happy either. Too little and the patient might not be very happy with you because you're getting a bunch of food stuck underneath there. So there's a fine balance. I'm going to show you a good trick for that. So this is what it looks like when we turn the crown over, okay? And make sure your model box is off so you can see through your scan. It doesn't have just the big model underneath. And yeah, this looks great. This tells me nothing. It doesn't, the machine's not gonna, it'll try and give you some contact colors and things like that, but I would not pay attention to them when it comes to tissue pressure. They're not accurate, okay? So this tells you nothing. How are you seeing how much compression is happening there? The best thing to do is your view options on the left side where you can turn on the upper jaw or the lower jaw or things like that. If you take your restoration slider and you slide it down and you decrease the opacity of it, now we can slightly see through our restoration and we can see the gingiva through it. So now you can still use your smooth tool, you can use your shape tools, you can use all those tools while it's in this mode. And now you can see how far that tissue is away from it. Yes?
Is your tissue pressure always the same no matter what gingival height you're using?
Yeah, it's a restorative, yes, exactly, yes. So this will look exactly the same no matter what height you're using. Yep, so this is just the same regardless. So I like a little bit of compression. I like to see that crown protruding through the gingiva just a little bit. We also like a nice S-curve emergence profile, right? We don't want something super bulbous like this. We want to give that gingiva something to fill in, a nice little S-curve, and then as we move up, okay? And you can use all of your normal tools to do that. Smooth tool, remove tool, add tool, shape tool, whatever you want, all the normal stuff. I'm always going through and using the smooth tool at the end to get that as smooth as possible. We don't want little bumps and things like that, to make sure you're always coming back through and smoothing everything out. But that's how you do it. And you got to do a few cases to see where, I'll show you what I like when we do the demo, but everybody likes a little different. I'm not getting my patients numb when I'm delivering the implant crown, so I don't want super heavy tissue compression. We can also deal with necrosis issues and things like that if we put too much pressure on there. So I'll show you what I like, but everybody, vary it to however you feel most comfortable. Okay. Now the only difference, so whether we were doing screw retained or cement retained, everything I just told you is exactly the same. There's been no difference thus far. The only difference is if you're doing cement retained, after you design your crown, your tissue pressure correct, you get your contacts, you get everything done, there will be this extra option in your tool panel, and it's called split. Okay, and what this is going to do is after you've done all your design, it's going to split that crown into a crown and a custom abutment. That is done at the end. It's not done before. So don't be surprised if you're choosing cement retain. You go, well, how do I know which one I'm adjusting? It happens after you've done with the design. Okay, so all you do is you hit split and you hit apply, and the computer is going to split those areas up. Okay. So now you can see here the crown has gone kind of translucent, and we can see our custom abutment down below. So it's following the contours. It does a pretty good job usually of estimating where the gingiva is, and it'll put the margin there, but it usually requires a little bit of finesse. And if you select your abutment, you can still use some of the tools. So we can scale that, we can use our shape or form tools, and we can move that margin down or up. And again, I'll show you this when we do the demo. We can move that out, change the height if we want it maybe a little bit higher on the lingual because aesthetically it's not a big concern, but we want that just slightly subgingival on the buccal, then you could do all that. And then you can still modify the crown if you needed to at this stage. The most important thing before you mill a cement retained restoration is this button right here, okay? Scale, smooth out, and hole, okay? And the reason for that is, and one of the very specific gotchas of restoring a cement retained implant with CEREC is this tolerance is so small where that crown fits on that custom abutment. If there's any jagged or over milling or under milling or something like that, that crown will not seat on that abutment, no matter how good of a job you do. So if you remember one thing about a cement retained crown today, the last step you need to do is you need to use both scale, radial, occlusal, smooth out, and you need to hit that custom abutment with that before you mill it, okay? If there's any little wee-waws or something in there, it may not mill perfectly, and that will not fit. So you need to make sure that thing is butter smooth before you mill it, okay? And this is the tool to do it. Any questions on that? So now we're back to milling our crown. This is a screw retained crown, okay? So we can see it's put the sprue here, okay? So the notch in this case was on the mesial, okay? We can't move the sprue. It's just gonna put it wherever it wants, okay? And when we go to mill this, here's our choices of blocks, okay? So we've got different block sizes. So we've got 14s and 16s. This is just the same thing as your normal block size, right? So you've got 12s and 14s and things like that. The 16s slightly wider and taller, okay? So historically, the 16s are made for screw retained crowns because those tend to be taller restorations, right? The 14s are made for custom abutments. But that's not to say if you have a shorter crown, you couldn't fit it in a 14. That's fine, it'll fit. We've got different hole sizes. So we've got a large hole, we've got small, and those are determined by the implant. So if we reference back to that chart that we used earlier, right? So remember, we were on Nobel Active RP, we were using a 5.0, size L. So we need a large hole, okay? Again, this chart is so useful. You need to have this, okay? If you try and use an S, it's not gonna work. And we've got different opacities and things like that. So when we're milling custom abutments, there's more opaque blocks in the Emax range that we can use, MO or HO blocks, implant blocks, to totally block out that titanium tie base. And then we use a more translucent crown on top. And when you're milling a cement retained crown, the abutment, the custom abutment needs to be the block with the hole in it. But when you mill the crown portion, it's just a regular block. It's just milled like a regular crown, nothing special. When you mill, if you pry mill not so much, but MCXL, when you go to mill a screw retained crown, it mills it differently. So don't be surprised if you hear different noises coming out of your machine. And what it does, if the crown, because usually the 16 block, it's pretty tall. So if anything, maybe the crown is this tall in this case, okay? And it has to mill that crown. It doesn't mill it out of the center. No, you know how when you normally look at it milling a crown, right? It's using both burrs and it's milling it out of the center of the block. Well, because there's a pre-milled hole in that block and the bottom of it is flat, the crown is all the way to one side of the block. So what it does usually is it'll take the one side, the right side burr, and it'll shave off. It'll go down the whole block and it'll just shave off the top of it. And it's a different noise than you're used to hearing. And it's a longer milling process, probably almost 20 minutes sometimes, okay, depending on how big or small the crown is. So it'll go through, it'll take off this whole area, all right, and then it'll stop, it'll recheck itself, it'll do a quick touch test again, and then it'll go back to the start and then start milling its crown like you're used to, okay? The one gotcha when you do this is, like I said, it comes back and it does a touch test, okay? So you can see here, see how it's milled kind of into the mandrel right here? See how it kind of chopped off the top of it? And usually this area is totally covered with Emax. So sometimes what happens is a little piece of Emax chip lands over here or something like that. And when it does its touch test again, it hits that chip and it gives you an error. And it says, hey, this is the wrong block because it got the wrong size for the mandrel because there's a piece of ceramic sitting over the top of it, okay? Happens very infrequently, but it does happen. And it's happened to me a couple of times, okay? So what you do, if that does happen, you go in there and you see a block that kind of looks like this, right? It's missing, it's got the top chopped off, but it has no crown milled and your machine is sitting there with a red light. The only thing you do, don't press stop, don't turn it off, don't do anything. Open the lid, look at where it's at the mandrel, where it's mounted in the machine, and just see if you see a little piece of Emax sitting there and flick it off with your finger and then press start again and it'll work, okay? But if you press stop, you press anything, done. You just cost yourself a block. You're starting over. You can't mess with it, or somebody turns the machine off or something, it won't pass the touch test again, so you can't use that block. It's done, okay? And that goes to say you can't reuse implant blocks like you can normal blocks as well, because the hole is in the middle, so. So that's a good one. Just be advised, watch out for that. So common errors, All right, so we haven't even talked about true abutment yet, huh? We're here and we have barely even talked about it. We just talked about implant crowns. It's crazy. So common errors, not taking a confirmation radiograph, right? I talked about this earlier. It is simple. I just tell my assistants, take a low bite wing. That's all I want. I don't really like a PA because the angle can be tough to see. Just take a low bite wing, call it a day, okay? We know that that's nice and seated. All right? What about this one? Kind of a PA-ish style. Is that seated all the way? I don't know. Maybe. Let's go ahead and restore it. Uh-oh. That's not good. I guess it wasn't seated all the way. Probably this bone over here. But look, the occlusion's perfect. So that's exactly what happens, okay? I get pictures like this all the time. Hey, how come the occlusion's perfect, but this doesn't look right? Yeah, well, probably, I mean, you know, now you can kind of see it, right? You can see, well, you know, this is angled pretty far down, so maybe it's not seated all the way. This is why you need a bite, okay? You can't tell anything from a PA. It's very, very difficult. But that is just a bad day. There's just nothing you can do. And you've talked up your machine, and then that happens, okay? So this has happened to me too. This is why I take confirmation radiographs. So scan post not seated all the way, right? Really deep anterior implant. And this is a Sirona scan post, okay? So before true abutment, there was only one scan post, only one height. So this is binding on the bone. We like subcrustal placements for implants now. We maintain the bone, we get really nice results. It gives us more room to create that beautiful emergence profile. The heck do we do here? Can't do anything. It's binding on the bone and we've got nothing. So in the past, before true abutment, what we would do, get a traditional impression coping, right? Take a PVS, send it to the lab. That's it. You have nothing else to do, okay? God, I hate PVS. Ugh, just hate it. Alginate too. Just don't like it at all. Don't even know how to use it. Got oodles of expired PVS on my office, but that's about it. I don't think I have anything current because I don't use it and I hate it. So this is where true abutment comes in. So exactly what that problem is, right? So we had one size, and as we're looking at this kit, the left side one is exactly the same as the Sirona scan post. It's 0.8 millimeters high from the platform to where the tie base sits, where the margin of the tie base, basically where your crown seats, okay? So now we've got 4 different sizes. So we've got 0.8, 1.8, 2.8, 3.8. Just goes up 1 millimeter each time. And that allows us to capture scans of these implants that are placed subcrustally with bone or lots of tissue, the normal stuff that we see today. You know, if you're placing your implants right at the bone level, then it's usually not a big deal, but we don't do that anymore. So this is where it comes in. So let's take a look and see. Here's the different heights. This is what it looks like. So, you know, GH1, right? If that implant's right at the bone level or millimeter subcrustal, that's not, I mean, it looks like it's seated here, but that wouldn't seat in the mouth. That would just be all sorts of bound up on the cortical bone right there. But if we use a GH2, you can see how this, and it has a really nice contour to it. It's not just a big flat plane. It is that nice S-curve shape that we like, right? And we can get this here, and we can move that all the way up. So here you go. Here's another picture there. You can see the heights, 0.8, 1.8, 2.8, 3.8. Very easy to remember, okay? How do we know what height? Oh, so here's that same case, right? So there's our old scan post right there. There's a true abutment, GH4. So GH stands for gingival height. So GH1 is the 0.8, 2, 3, and 4. So this is GH4. So same case, same tooth. Now it's seated all the way, and we've moved that out of the way from the bone. I mean, totally saved me on this case. Couldn't have done it without it. Could not have done it without it. Exactly right. So I'll show you what it looks like. There's a little chart I have here. Thank you. That's just leading me right into it. So how do we know which height to use, right? How do we, algebra, we got to solve for x, okay? So here's a good chart, okay? And this is again in your, in that book that we downloaded online. We can take a picture of it if you want. If we're doing screw retained, this is generally what I like to follow. So I always have a perio probe ready when I take the healing abutment off, right? And I'm going to measure from the platform of the implant to the crest of the gingiva, the lowest crest of the gingiva, okay? Not to the highest, okay? So wherever that is, right? And I'm going to say, so say it's 3 millimeters, okay? Well, if there's not a lot of bone problems, then I can really use either of these, okay? You know, maybe if there is a lot of interproximal bone or something like that, I might lean more towards a GH2 just to give me some clearance over that. But generally, that's how it is. Okay? Pretty easy. Just follow the chart. So a good way to remember that, basically it's one less. The number is one less than your measurement. So if you have 5 millimeters, you'll probably use a 4. If you have 4 millimeters, you probably use a 3. That's a pretty good rule of thumb. And then you can always double check it, right? So we're not letting the patient leave, we're checking the clearance. And this is where that clearance check comes in, right? Because now you go, great, I used a GH4 because I needed to clear that bone. But what happens if that tooth is super erupted? Now you've got all sorts of minimal thickness issues. Well, you didn't let the patient leave, you didn't even sit him up. So you just unscrew that GH4 and you go, well, let me put a GH3 in, and then you retake your scan, and all of a sudden you're fine. You just gained a millimeter of clearance. So it's a good check. Yes, go ahead.
Is this good for any implants or it's specific implants?
So the scan posts are specific to an implant. Yep, so you'll have to have a specific scan post for every implant, just because of the hex is different, right? But every implant that's on their list, they support. So cement retained, we need a little bit more room, right? Because now we've got to make room for a custom abutment and a crown. So here are the numbers for cement retained. And again, check your clearance before that patient leaves. Check to make sure that scan body is there and check your clearance. So let's take a look at another case. Simple one, right? Same thing. Number 13. So we've got a GH1 or a traditional scan post. It just wouldn't have worked here. This is a GH2. It just wouldn't have worked here. It would have bound on that distal bone. If we hadn't taken a confirmation radiograph, we would have found out at the delivery. But it would have been a problem. But this would have been a punt case. There's just no way you could have restored it. But I just go to the next box over in my little true abutment kit. I put in my GH2 and boom. That's it. Simple as that. There's restoration. Very nice profile coming out there. Nice platform switch. We're going to maintain that bone level really well. This is all pure titanium as well, so the gingiva loves it. It can really create a nice connection, form a nice connection to that titanium and maintain that biologic width there. And then, this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. With that scan post, there's all sorts of things that you can do with that, okay? So you can restore digitally, okay? We can upload it via Connect, so just the same way you're used to sending a case to the lab. You can do it direct from the chairside software. You don't have to use the Connect software. You can just click the button at the top, and we can send it to True Abutment. They can make us a custom abutment. We could send it to our lab partners who all work with True Abutment for the most part, and they can work with them and do different things if you want them to make the crown. True Abutment will, if you want to make the crown in-house, you can actually send the case to them. They'll make the custom abutment for you, and they'll send you a DXD file back, a core file, and you can open that in your CEREC machine and it'll look like a prep. So the custom abutment will be a prep. You can mill your own crown. They'll mail you the custom abutment, and you can do a cement retained restoration yourself. So you can do that if you'd like. That is helpful in areas where you've got an implant that's off axis or you've got clearance issues. They're going to custom mill that titanium abutment. Okay, so that's a possibility, and you still get to make the crown in-house. We can send it and do other things. We can make angled screw channels. We can make all-on whatever. We can do locators with that. You can do anything that True Abutment makes, you can do with these scan posts. So you don't need special, I remember before in the past, I wanted to send something to the lab and we had to buy Nobel ELOS abutment or a scan post, and then we got all these other scan, and it's like I got 95 different things and every one of them costs $60, $70. I use it once and then I don't use it again, and I'm just tired of doing that. So all sorts of different options. And I want to show you quickly one case here that I did recently. So I wanted to do an angled, this is a little bit more on the advanced side, but I want to show you how possible it is, okay? So I wanted to do an angled screw channel. So I placed this implant. This is a Urus implant, which is actually made by True Abutment. I'll plug my course coming up in April. If you want to learn how to do guided surgery with the Urus system, I'll be teaching it in April, so come hang out. But anyway, when we do this system, we have a guided implant, and then we actually have a custom healer that's made beforehand, before the surgery. So we're putting that custom healer in as a healing abutment so we can shape the gingiva really nicely. And this is number 6, so we really wanted that. I want to have nice papilla retained, okay? So I placed the implant. 6 months later, I come back. I placed it nice and deep. Look at that, bone stayed beautiful. Really, really nice bone level. I used a GH4 scan post, so I didn't run into problems there. And this is a side note. If you're sending it to True Abutment to make something, it doesn't matter what height you use, just as long as you tell them. So if you already know you're gonna send it, you might as well just use the longest one and not worry about it binding on the bone, and just say, hey, I used a GH4 scan post. And they can change the height in their software, no problem. But if you scan it wrong in the CEREC, you can't change it. So I took a scan. You can see here, just with the way that the bone was, I couldn't make it screw retain, okay? The screw channel is coming straight out the incisal edge. So I had them fabricate me a custom or angled screw channel. This can be done in chairside. This is in lab, so this is definitely a little bit more advanced side. But here we go, maybe, there we go. So you can see, we move that over. We've got our screw channel coming out right on the palatal. That's what the design looks like. And I did all the design in-house, okay? And there you go, that's the restoration, number 6. I don't have a 5-axis mill, so I could not mill it myself, right? We can't mill these screw holes. So I used a company called Alien Milling. They're just a milling center. You can send them a file and they'll mill it for you. But I just wanted to try it. I just wanted to do it and see if I could do it in-house. Because I really enjoy, maybe I didn't do the greatest staining job. I probably could have matched number 7 a little bit better. But I like doing stuff like this. I like challenging myself and messing with it. And it's definitely a little bit more work, because now we're dealing with, I mean, they'll gold hue your abutment for you, but you're still dealing with blocking that out and things like that. So it's definitely more lab side, a little more challenging. But there's the final restoration. There's what it looks like. Yeah, pretty fun. So possibilities are endless. You can really go as far down that rabbit hole as you really want.
So if you want to send it to the lab, so
Huh?
you send it to the lab, or you send the scan to the True Abutment first, make the channel?
If the lab is doing it, just send it to the lab. They'll handle everything on their side. Yep.
I have this one issue, and
Uh-huh.
the lab was saying that they cannot even do it with a surgeon place the implant and
Uh-huh.
with Buckley.
Okay.
So they say you cannot really do it with the angle.
There is a limitation on how far they can do it. And also, angle screw channels, the torque is only 25 Newton centimeters, not 35. So for molars and things like that, don't do it. It's not worth it. Okay, yeah, but yeah, there is a limit. I think it's like 15 degrees or 20 degrees. So yeah, there's only a certain amount you can do. So that's it for now. We've got Lauren from Ivaclar. She's gonna go over some stuff. Any last minute questions? Anything I can answer? No? Good? All right, awesome. Let me get myself unplugged here. Cool, okay. Laura's going to speak for about a half hour or so, then we'll have a nice coffee break and everything like that. Here's your...
When I plug this in, is this going to show?
No, it shouldn't.
It's on slideshow.
Let's make sure that that pops up. There we go. And then if you click here. There we go.
Perfect. This is my guy.
Do you have, oh, maybe. Plug.
No?
Is that yours or that's
No.
mine? That's mine.
Oh,
Do
okay.
you have yours?
No, I don't have one.
That one's just Bluetooth to my laptop, so here you can use this and just plug this into your USB.
Perfect.
Good.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Very good.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. I'm Lauren. I'm the local Orange County Ivoclar rep. I've been with Ivoclar for almost 11 years now. When I first started, I was San Bernardino. Then they moved me to Orange County. Now I'm Orange County, San Bernardino, Riverside. So I see a lot of familiar faces and a lot of faces I don't know. So first, I'm going to be going over your Emax block selection, prep guidelines, staining and glazing techniques, firing, and cementation. So what are Emax abutment solutions? They have the same chemistry as your current Emax system, and they come with a free prefabricated interface for the direct cementation to a tie base. So you'll either have your individually milled hybrid abutment, which is then luted to the tie base, or you're going to have your hybrid abutment crown where you have your abutment and crown in one piece, and it is then luted to the tie base. All right, Emax prep guidelines must always be followed when designing. So for the hybrid abutment, you must have a 0.5 millimeter wall thickness and should be designed in a similar way as prepared as a prep tooth, circular shoulder, rounded inner edges, or a chamfer. And always observe prep height and retention. So if you're going to be using an Emax on top of your abutment, you're going to have 1.5 millimeter thickness on functioning cusps. All right, and for the crown being placed on top of the hybrid abutment, oh, I said that, excuse me. Here are the prep guidelines for designing the hybrid abutment crown. Again, the wall thickness must be larger than 1.5 millimeters for the entire circumference. You don't want to put the screw channel in an area of contact points at all. Next up, we're going to have block selection. All right, so after you determine whether you're going to use a L or an S tie base, then you can choose which block you're going to use to best fit your case. So if you're going to be doing the Emax hybrid abutment, you can either use medium opacity, or we actually have low translucency as well for that too. And if you're going to be doing the hybrid abutment crown, we have low translucency available. All right. We have 9 A through D shades, 1 bleach shade, and the 5 MO shades. So this is a nice guide that shows you where the medium opacity shades will fall on the A through D shade guide. So you can see if your desired shade is an A1, then you're going to use the MO1 block, so on and so forth. Now the MO blocks actually, they fire at a different temperature, so you want to make sure you put them in the longer cycle. The medium opacity. The LTs can be fired in the same firing cycle that you would your normal Emax. So the anti-rotational feature. This is a nice, oh, excuse me. This is a slide is very important. There's an anti-rotational feature that ensures the abutment will not spin. This slot and the bottom of the block must never be modified or polished. So there's a picture there. All right. Next step, finishing. So once the block is removed from the milling chamber, you're going to remove the abutment from the mandrel with a diamond separating disc. A tip for removing the sprue. You can mark the sprue outline with a red or blue pencil. And then you can use some of these are some nice burrs to use for contouring the sprue down. This one. All right. Perfect. All right, you can use this blue wheel to blend the abutment and the crown together. It's nice. All right, clinical try-in. All right, this is optional. If you were to do clinical try-in, what you need is an extra light, fast set impression material, liquid strip, foam pellet, and a scalpel. So, excuse me, real quick. So first you're going to clean the untreated ceramic structure. You're going to place it on the tie base and mark the position. Then you're going to seal the screw channel with a foam pellet. Place the extra light body fast set on the tie base and directly into the ceramic structure. Then you're going to make sure you line that up perfectly. Hold that in place for 2.5 minutes until the virtual extra light body has set, and remove any excess with an instrument. Then you're going to remove the excess from the screw channel, and you're ready for clinical try-in. So manually screw in the abutment, observe the fit at the margin, and if desired, seal the hybrid abutment with a foam pellet. You can isolate the crown with glycerin gel, then place the crown on the hybrid abutment intraorally and adjust your proximal contacts if needed, but don't check occlusion at this point. All right. Then you're going to do the same thing with the light body fast set inside the crown. Press the crown down onto the hybrid abutment until the final position is reached and the impression material has set. All right. Then you're going to remove the impression material, unscrew the abutment, and you're good to go. All right, now we're going to complete the abutment with crystallization and characterization. All right, so we have 3 options. Once the abutment is completed, you have the option to polish, then crystallize. You can glaze, stain, then crystallize. Or you can crystallize first, then stain and glaze and fire again. What you're going to need is, you have all this in the other room. You're going to need your extra small crystallization pins, your standard crown crystallization pins, object fix flow, crystal glaze paste, any stains or shades, brushes, the tray, and again your furnace. All right, if working with a hybrid abutment, only stain and glaze the emergence profile. If the hybrid abutment crown is used, then you can stain and glaze the entire outer surface. You'll be using your same stain and glazes that you typically use with your Emacs. But note that we're not going to be doing any spray glaze for abutments. Could cause pooling. You don't want any excess that to get into any of the screw hole or channel. All right, so staining technique on a blue restoration. You're going to use your extra small Emacs crystallization pin. You're going to fill your interface with the object fix flow and place the pin inside. You don't want to push the pin too far in so that it's poking through the hole. You don't want any of the pin to touch any of the Emacs. So you're going to gently place it inside. You just want to place your putty inside so that the pin can just sit in carefully, you know what I mean, and not touch anything. Because that pin is the same as your tray, so it gets really hot. So you just don't want it to touch any of the ceramic structure.
You don't have to support anything like we do like our normal crowns, like support on margins or anything with the hole?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought, doesn't it shrink? You have to fill the whole hole?
You're filling the hole. The hole is really teeny. You'll see in the room. I'm going to go over a little more here of that, but we're going to go over all this in person, so I'll help you guys in person. Yeah. Okay, so same as doing your Emacs. If you're going to stain and glaze, you'll mix your glaze paste and liquid and apply it evenly on the emergence profile. Again, you're not going to glaze any of the bonding surface. And that's all right. You're going to add any characterization that you would like onto the emergence profile. All right. Your polishing technique, if you were just to polish, you're going to build a little pillow underneath, and inside you want it to overflow, and you could just place it directly onto the firing tray, or you can put it on your pin as well, but it's not, you don't have to because you're not going to be staining it or glazing it. All right, once it's done, you're going to take it off, clean out any of the residue inside. Do not sandblast. That's always with Emax. All right, now we're going to prepare the tie base and hybrid abutment for cementation. So you're going to prepare the tie base according to the manufacturer's instruction for use. Apply your Monobond Plus onto the bonding surface. Allow it to react for 60 seconds like you usually would. Dry any remaining moisture. Seal the screw channel with a foam pellet. All right, then you're going to screw on the tie base and mark the position with a waterproof pen. To protect the emergence profile and screw trial, you can apply impression material as well. All right. Then you're going to prepare your Emax like you usually would. So you're going to etch the internal surface for 20 seconds. Rinse, dry, apply your Monobond Plus for 60 seconds. Air dry any excess. This is all normal, not new. All right, now cementing in the abutment to the tie base. This is where we're going to use the multi-link hybrid abutment cement that Dr. Storm was mentioning. So it's a high bond strength and high opacity makes it the perfect solution for Emax abutments and blocking out the tie base. We used to have 2 shades, now we only have 1, just high opacity. All right, so to use the cement, you're going to apply a very thin layer onto the bonding surface of the tie base and do the same thing inside of the crown. Then you're going to place the Emax on the tie base in a way that lines up the markings and hold together for 5 seconds. Then carefully clean out the screw channel and let it sit for 2 to 3 minutes before removing any excess. Once that 2 to 3 minutes hits, you can remove the excess, apply a glycerin gel on the cementation joint to prevent the formation of an oxygen inhibited layer. And then you have to hold the components together for 7 minutes total. It is a self-cure only, and these cannot be moved during the self-curing time. You can get a small instrument to hold it together, or you could hold it together with your hands. I don't recommend that, it's a long time. All right, after that, you're going to rinse with water and polish the cementation joint with the rubber polisher at low speed. And again, remove any remaining residue and be extra careful not to touch the screw channel. And there you go, you have your completed hybrid abutment and hybrid abutment crown. All right, cementing the crown to the tie base, last but not least. Okay, so first off, seating an Emax crown on top of an Emax abutment with temporary cement is contraindicated. Do not sandblast Emax, we all know that. Apply your etch to the bonding surface for 20 seconds, rinse and dry. Apply your Monobond Plus for the bonding surface for 60 seconds. Air dry any excess moisture. All right, insert intraorally and manually screw into place. Tighten with a torque wrench and seal the screw channel. Then you're going to apply your luting material into the crown and seat on the abutment. Tack cure your cement, remove any excess. And apply a glycerin gel at the margin, and then final cure your cement. Rinse off the gel, check occlusion, make any final adjustments. All right, so what you will need. You're going to need your true abutment tie base, scan bodies for Omnicam and Prime Scan have different colors, so make sure you have the right one. Your Ivoclar multi-link hybrid abutment cement, abutment blocks, L or S, depending on the platform you're using. Your crystallization tray, which you already should have, and extra small crystallization pins. Here is also an ordering form with all the information on it. And that's about it. All right, any questions before we move on? I know I kind of breezed through that. I know everyone has used Emacs here, so you're familiar with everything on that, but is there any other questions coming up? Go ahead.
What's the glycerin gel?
Glycerin gel, it's just to block the oxygen inhibited layer because it's a resin cement. So you're basically going to place that before you do your final cure.
For the cementing the crown to the custom abutment, I noticed in the photos you were etching and silinating the custom abutment. Are you not doing that to the crown then? Or does it matter which one you do it to?
Are you talking about the abutment with the crown on top of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not going to do it on top of.
Like in the photos, it was the custom abutment that was getting etched and silinated.
Yes. And then you would etch and silinate as well. Is that not on there?
And then
Any of the bonding surface of the Emacs, you're going to etch and silinate. Yes.
So both the inside of the crown
Yeah.
and the custom abutment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Anybody else? Okay. Yes, good question. Okay, so for the LT blocks, if you're using the low translucency, then it's going to be your Emacs P1 if you have the chairside furnace from Ivoclar. So it's for your 3 or more Emacs crowns. You can't put it in the speed cycle. And then for the MO blocks, it's the last cycle, which is P7, and it says Emacs Impulse Opalescent MO. So it's a little longer. We came out with the MO blocks before the LT blocks. So they do fire a little longer. I'd recommend the LT blocks because they do block out enough with the cement and the low translucency. All right, I think it is a coffee and bathroom break right now. So enjoy.
Are you a purpose-driven dentist? Do you care or give back to your community? In today's world, big corporations and small business owners alike are becoming more socially responsible. Whether the business supports the planet or a social cause, today's patients want their dentist to do the same. Smile on You provides every dentist the opportunity to give back and the chance to be associated with a mission-driven purpose. Become a Smile on You dentist when signing up for our online dental listing. Here are the 3 different online packages to choose from. The Helper at $500, the Good Samaritan at $750, the Philanthropist at $1,000. For just one dental treatment you do pays for your listing. Not only will the online listing allow you to promote your dental services, be associated with the mission-driven purpose, but you will also have access to all the features Smile on You dashboard has to offer, including unlimited access to edit or upload new content to your profile, unlimited access to additional basic analytics about your listing, including views and top referrers. Make Smile on You your dental practice social mission. Be a part of a global dental network that is working to help and support underprivileged communities. Go to smileonyou.com and sign up today.
Hey everybody, I'm Dr. Wally Renee. Welcome to the next episode of Introview. I'm your special guest host and we are at a very exciting location, Planmeca headquarters. Come, let's take a look.
Hi, my name is Sun with True Abutment. I'm here at Plant Mecca USA headquarters, here with beautiful 3 people that represents Plant Mecca, here to ask some questions and get some ideas and answer about Plant Mecca. So please introduce about yourself, Dr. Wally.
I have a background in academics where I started the first ever 2-year digital dentistry residency where we awarded a master's degree in digital dentistry. Transitioned from academics to start my own training center, and it's my passion is education and training, and we also have good relationships with a bunch of different manufacturers to help us achieve our goals.
I've been in the dental space for just over 20 years, past 10 years with Plant Mecca, currently the Senior Product Manager for imaging products in North America.
So I've been in CAD/CAM or dentistry for the last 18 years. Currently I'm the National Manager of CAD/CAM for Plant Mecca. So day to day I'm working with our marketing team looking at ways to market our product, working with the sales team on ways we can better sell the product, educate doctors in the field, and then working with our dealer partners, again with education, helping their sales team become more proficient in the Plant Mecca products.
How is Plant Mecca involved in digital dentistry, and why do you think Plant Mecca digital dentistry solution is superior?
Well, I would say Plant Mecca has defined the digital dentistry space for our industry. We're known as the industry leader for innovation. So when it comes to imaging, for example, I would say we've developed a platform that's completely robotic, so it's updatable and upgradable. So as the technology needs change for the clinician, or the technology changes on our part, we can keep that machine current at any given time. If patients move during a 3D scan, it's not a problem with Plant Mecca. We detect that motion and automatically correct those images, so we give superior image quality each and every time. And then as far as radiation dose, we've actually perfected radiation dose. What we've done is driven radiation levels down to be less than intraoral in many cases, and we've done it without sacrificing image quality. And what that means is clinicians can now use our technology on a more routine basis rather than just for a specific clinical need. I think these are some of the things that we've done on the imaging side that have stood out as innovators. On the CAD/CAM side, I would say we've created hyper-fast scanners that are extremely accurate. I describe them as very smart. So they can literally hold them up in the air and it will navigate the software, for example, so the clinician doesn't have to deglove and go back to a computer. We've made them smart so that they can take HD photos while they're scanning. So we've done a lot of advancements in the space of CAD/CAM on the digital impression side. I'd say on the CAD/CAM side, I would describe our mills as very smart as well. So if a burr, for example, is worn or breaks during the procedure, the operator doesn't have to go back to the machine and change it. The machine automatically changes it for them, just really creating a more efficient workflow for them. They alert them if there's any sort of errors as far as maintenance and upkeep with the machines. If there's anything as far as broad applications, we have mills that can handle just about anything today. And then lastly, I would say what ties everything together in all these technologies that we offer is our Romexis imaging software. I describe it as a open digital ecosystem that's completely customizable. So as doctors' needs change and they want to add different procedures to their workflow, the software can be customized and adapted at any given time. I would say Romexis to me is probably the most robust, feature-rich software that's yet simple and easy to use.
For me, when I think about what I want as a clinician, I want to be able to live in one software ecosystem without having to jump around to various different manufacturers. And I think Plant Mecca is really unique in that because they've not only dominated the CBCT imaging field with Romexis, with guided implant surgery planning and 3D printing of surgical guides, but that instantly translates over to their scanner and their CAD design. So everything's completely integrated from imaging to milling. And it's really cool to not have to learn all these other systems and be stressed out about what software I'm going to use today when I know I have one software that could do everything.
Plant Mecca is a Finnish-based company based out of Helsinki, Finland. We are the largest family-owned dental company with over 50 years of experience in innovation in the dental space. At Plant Mecca, we are a forward-thinking company. We offer so many products in the dental imaging space, from 2D intraoral and extraoral imaging 3D imaging, CAD/CAM, dental treatment centers, and so much more. So we invite you to stop by and understand a little bit more about Planmeca and how we provide better care through innovation.
What are some key considerations clinicians should think about when implementing digital dentistry in their dental office?
I would say on the imaging side, first and foremost, they need to look at what's their clinical use of the product. So start there. But more importantly, I would probably look into the future, what things you might want to implement later on in the practice. So have a platform that's allowed to grow as your needs grow in the practice is extremely important. I know implementing this sort of technology is something that many have to embrace. And so in order to make that embrace very easy, you want softwares and you want products that are very simple and easy to use. So make it easy on your staff, make it easy on you, and at the very end, make sure that it's safe for the patient as well.
Yeah, I have to agree with Brent. When we look at CAD/CAM and when offices are looking at CAD/CAM, they not only need to look at what they're doing today, but they really need to look at what their future holds for them in dentistry. If they want to do the bread and butter of dentistry, we have our Planmeca Fit system, which is really the bread and butter. It's the single crowns, the inlays, the onlays, the veneers, your 3-unit bridges. For the practices that want to do a lot more and keep everything in-house, we have the Fit Plus, which allows them to do their single units, but they can do splints, they can do surgical guides, they can do full roundhouses. They're even able to do dentures in the software and mill them out on our milling machine. So being able to grow with the practice, not limit them to what is available today. So it's truly important to make sure that the office picks and chooses the right equipment that they're using, but also make sure that they pick the right partner to work with. When we look at Planmeca, what our product does today may be a little different in the future, but the beauty is we're upgradable. So a lot of the times with our products, you can take that product and add new features to it without having to completely replace what you have in the practice today, which brings down costs. It also helps, with your overall lab fees, and patient satisfaction. Patients look at this technology or you have this technology used on them, they're going to refer the practice because they're going to have a much better experience in the dental office. So here we have both our Planmeca Fit and Planmeca Fit Plus systems. Both these systems start with our Emerald S scanner. It's a lightweight, easy to use scanner, very, very portable. It comes with a laptop. So as you're going from operatory to operatory, you're able to move the system very easily. You're not tethered to a cart system. For those that want to have a little bit more productivity going in the practice, you're even able to get your desktop computers where the scanner can plug directly into those desktops. For the doctors that are interested in more of the bread and butter of dentistry, doing same-day restorations, we have our Fit system with the 30S milling unit. This allows doctors to do crowns, inlays, onlays, veneers, and up to 3-unit bridges. For the doctors that are wanting to do a lot more and to have higher production in their practice, the Fit Plus system is what they're looking for. This system allows them not only to do those crowns, inlays, onlays, veneers, and 3-unit bridges, but really the ability to do everything that your lab would be able to do. Whether you're doing a splint, surgical guide, even a denture is capable on the Fit Plus system and the 50S milling unit.
One of the things that's so fascinating about Planmeca is they take education very seriously. I would say they have some of the best education for fundamentals, where you could come to the headquarters and get really personalized education. And then they have phenomenal advanced training as well throughout the country. One example is the Mod Institute in Charleston, South Carolina, where we have specific classes designed to really take users to the next level with what they have and be able to maximize efficiency and optimize patient care with the technology.
How can we find more about Planmeca?
Visit our showroom here just outside of Chicago. You can go on social media, reach out to one of your local Planmeca reps, or go to our website, planmeca.com.
Welcome to another episode of True Abutment's Interview. I'm Jeff Kraft, and on this episode, we come to you from the Jewel of the Southeast, Charleston, South Carolina. I'm going to be chatting with Dr. Renee and Dr. DeFee, the founders of the Mod Institute. What is the Mod? We're going to find that out, but this is a technology-driven education center I can't wait to introduce you to. But first, I gotta figure out how to get on these boats. Mike, Wally, I appreciate you guys sitting down with me. I mean, come on, look at this setting right here. This is Charleston at its finest. Being down here on the dock, I mean, I'm in San Diego, I feel like I'm at home.
That's right.
This is great. This is great. You guys come down here a lot?
Very often.
Yeah. Yeah?
Yep.
Want to find out about MOD. Tell me, first off, what does MOD stand for?
MOD means Modern Optimized Dentistry, which is essentially a way of thinking, a way of practicing, and a way of treating your patients that takes all the technology into consideration and combines that synergistically with evidence in the literature to create like a truly evidence-based but yet modern way of practice.
Okay, that sounds great. If I read that on paper, I was like, wow, that is amazing. How did you come to this whole philosophy?
You know, I've been leading digital dentistry residents and residencies for over a decade now, and I've developed my own philosophy on patient care and the best way to optimize the technology for being not only very efficient in your practice, but also upping that level of aesthetics and quality.
So when Mike came on board, how did this relationship start? How do you guys know each other?
We met in dental school a long time ago.
Okay.
I'm an old man now, but Mike is a PhD and a DMD, which is a very rare type of unicorn that exists in the world, where I became really impressed with his level of knowledge as it relates to everything in the dental space and beyond into the scientific space.
Okay, and so when you came on board and you saw what was going on, you guys know each other. Have you guys talked about this before? You know, sitting, having a drink, going, I got this idea. Were you on board from the very beginning?
Well, this is an idea that Wally and I honestly have bounced around for many years.
Okay.
And you know, it came to the point, you know, about a year and a half ago where we were like, now's the time. You know, we're just at a really unique time in dentistry where scientific knowledge and technology is coming to a point where we can really revolutionize the way we practice, both from an efficiency standpoint, but also from a conservative and patient-centered practice.
Okay.
In a way that I don't think we've seen that ever in dentistry, honestly.
I want to talk about the build out of your team. How did you decide who to bring on? And what does it take for somebody to say, you know, I want to be a part of that. I love what these guys are doing. I love what they stand for. I love, this is who I am, and this is where dentistry is going. Sign me up. Who do you look for?
Yeah, so we have 10 faculty members, surgeons, periodontists, we have GPs, just a good blend of individuals who all are passionate about digital dentistry. That's really the only checkbox you need to have. And really it's all about those relationships, right? So these guys and gals are my closest friends, and we've been building relationships together for years. And so the first step is if you want to be a faculty member, is to come check us out and see what we're all about. Come be a part of the family. We're very open to all sorts of talents and individuals. There's no egos. We check the egos at the door. Everybody's equal and welcome. It's a really cool place to come learn. It's unintimidating, and it's one of those places where it's not my way or the highway. It's an open discussion where we sometimes learn a ton from those faculty members that we have bringing in from external sources.
What do you feel like the biggest strength that you guys have, you know, as a team, not just with you two, but the entire faculty? What is your biggest strength?
The team that we've built is kind of like a family. We think alike in a lot of regards, but yet we're very different. So we complement each other. So we're on week. We have people who are going to take over and build up. So Mike's super smart as it relates to anything business related. So he's run very big, very successful practices. And from the practice management side, that's something that I don't have a background in, coming from academics, coming from that type of research background. So iron sharpens iron. We're just always lifting each other up.
What else do you guys like to do? I know you're into crypto.
Yes.
Right? You're into crypto. You've been into crypto for a while.
Well, yes, of course, crypto is one of my interests, and I think, you know, we're going to see blockchain as a technology change just ways that we live and interact that is totally unpredictable at this point. I like to liken it to, and I'm not unique in saying this, but it's like the internet in the 90s. Like, there's all this buzz around it. It's really cool and new, and there's so many things that could happen, but nobody really knows what it's going to flesh out to. So I think that is something that's super exciting to me. That's a strength between me and Wally, in that we both always are looking to get better. And so, you know, getting into crypto, passionate about that, because I think it is another, like digital dentistry to the practice of dentistry is going to be transformative just to the way we live as a whole. Love to surf. Admittedly, I'm not quite as active as I was before having children, but you know, love the outdoors, and that's what makes Charleston great. Is we have outdoor weather 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
And so, you know, really love living here, and that's probably me as in a nutshell.
What about you?
Man, I'm boring, man. It's all dentistry or nothing. I mean,
with your glasses on your shirt, I'm boring.
I live, sleep, and dream dentistry. I love it. It's everything in my life that, you know, besides my family, my beautiful family, I either want to spend time doing cool stuff in dentistry or spend time with my family, and there's not a lot of gray area in between there, because dentistry consumes so much of my passion and time that any little left over I have to give to my family, which is just basically me in a nutshell.
So, you know, we've talked a lot about building the team. It's, you know, family, the relationships. Let's talk about that relationship with True Abutment. Who created that relationship? How did it start?
Our success is largely due to partnering with incredible companies. And True Abutment in 2017, we were on a golf trip at a course, and Son Kim was there. And we were just golfing, and I got talking with him, and he's like, you know, you do a lot of implants, you do a lot of abutments, you should try us out. And I said, okay, I'll try you out. And it was probably the best thing that I did for my practice. For those of you who don't know, they have a custom abutment solution for many different implant manufacturers that they also are all digital. So I was able to take that 3D file and mill it in my in-office milling machine for pennies on the dollar compared to what I was paying, and the quality was better. You can't lose.
You can't lose.
You can't lose.
It's a win-win. It's what it is.
Well, yeah. I mean, it just makes sense, not only financially, but it was the quality of the parts and pieces that went into the implants that really impressed me.
Trends in 2022. I mean, we're the end of the year here. It's been an interesting last couple of years, of course, with COVID, so many challenges that everybody's had to overcome. But what are some of the trends that you guys see coming up in 2022?
I mean, scanner and 3D printing adoption are through the roof in dentistry. So scanner adoption's peaking close to 40% with 20% annual growth. So 3D scanning, intraoral scanning is just something that's going to be in 5 years in every single dental office. And it's finally, we've bridged that chasm where we've beyond early adopters, and we're rocketing up the adoption scale for intraoral scanners, and 3D printing is right there. So it's so exciting to see those technologies take off in our profession, because we've been doing it for 15, 20 years now, and finally now it's everybody's catching on that it's just a practice changer.
You know, with the folks that are watching from the office, from home, or wherever they're watching, they want to be a part of what you guys are doing. What can they do just to be around you guys, to talk to you guys, create that relationship? What's the best way to do that?
To get into the kind of mod family, we have online modules that you could have for free. Check us out, see if you like the feel of the courses, come learn, see what digital dentistry is all about, and then come visit us and check out a course and come hang out with us. We go sailing on our courses. We have a lot of fun. We like to build those relationships outside of the classroom.
My last question for you, Mike, is I mean, it's a tough question. I'm not sure how you're going to answer it. But you like mimosas?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Let's go get some mimosas.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Actually get 5 free scan bodies. Not the scan post, but these scan bodies can be used
this through Serona Connect or whichever, the portal. So our hand you guys out. So you can fill one per one office. So fill that, and then if you hand it to Sue when you head out, we'll be able to send it out to you on Monday or Tuesday.
So these are for temporary visas?
For not temporary, but for custom appointment.
Custom appointment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can just scan as Crown Prep, and then Serona connect the case to us if you have a Serona system. If you have something else like a Medit or anything else, you can export as the STL file, the scans, and then send it to our portal, and then we'll be able to do custom appointment for you. Okay. And by the way, if you haven't already our account yet, then you will have to fill this back form out for us. So we actually charge $10 for shipping, just the shipping. So just feel free to write that, and then we'll be able to send it on Monday or Tuesday. Okay.
As we get back into it, there was a question from the YouTube, the live stream audience. They asked if when we're doing the tie-base cementation, if we can use monobond etch and prime for that. And the answer is you can use monobond etch and prime on the crown, but you cannot use it on the tie-base. You need to use traditional monobond plus on the tie-base. So if I were you, I would probably not, just so you don't mess it up, I would probably just use regular HF and monobond. All right, everybody good? Everybody got a form? Great. All right, so we're playing here. We're going to spend about a half hour or so playing with the Ceric software. We'll go through and design a crown, and then we'll meander on over to the other room and get to play with some stains and glazes. So my screen is on your right side. You can see me moving around there. Your screen's on your left side. So if you minimize that Google Chrome tab or that browser on your left side, you will notice that there's a Ceric case open under there. Just like that. I'll wait for everybody to get there, then we'll go over some stuff. You can just either close that yeah, and this should be hiding under. There it is. Yep, perfect. So if you go on the left side screen, you can do it. You can follow along as well. So just close that whole tab, close that browser on the right. Yeah, there we go. There it is. So it should look very similar. Yes.
I don't have mine.
On the left screen? Oh. Go ahead, click and drag that into there, please. And then it'll give you some warning about the demo. So just click OK, and then it should load. Yeah. Everybody else got it? You got it on your left screen? Give that just a second for that to finish doing its thing. So while it's doing that, I'll just quickly show you here. So if you look on your right screen, this is normally where you live, right? So we were talking about the single restoration here. If you go to restoration type down below, we can find the implant portion. Just like we were talking about before, we can choose if we're doing a screw retained or a cement retained. So let's just go screw retained. I've already got it pre-selected on the right side, but just follow along here. So we're doing individual. We're telling it what material we want to use here, so you can see the different options. So Ivoclar has either Emax or they've got TeleoCAD. TeleoCAD is a PMMA material, so great for custom temporaries. I use it a lot when I'm doing tissue forming in the anterior. If you guys aren't doing that and you're interested in doing it, it works very, very nicely. Get a tie base. You can make a custom temporary crown for the anterior, leave the patient in it for a few months. That PMMA material is bondable, so you can add composite to it if you want to bulk out and shape that emergence profile as you wish. It also looks pretty darn good as well. It does a really good job of blocking out the You know, PMMA, when it gets thicker, it's pretty easy, pretty good at blocking out things, so it's pretty good at blocking out the tie base. So I actually, my front office person, he has an implant in the front, and he's been in a temporary for about, I don't know, 4 months or so now, as we're just growing that tissue. And then the nice part is you've pretty much already got your design, because you can use the same file when you make the permanent. So those are our options. So in this case, we'll use Emax device. You'll choose what milling unit you're using. Tie base, we'll go through and choose. Remember, so we're looking for an NBA 5.0. That is in the, you could look through all these categories if you want, but it's usually in Dentsply, Sirona, others. I don't know why they categorize it like that, but whatever. So those are all the different kinds that we can use. So if we go all the way down, we can find NBA 5.0, it's near the bottom. We'll click that. Remember, it's asking what we want to scan it with. So tie base, try not to. Scan post, we'll choose that. And then it chooses the scan post already. So I already pre-selected it, but in this case, normally you would click on whatever two. So in this case, we're doing a 14. Don't click on it though, because it'll get rid of the other one. So after that, these are not scanners. Otherwise, we would go into our acquisition phase, and that's where we would normally take our scans. So remember, we've got 4 different catalogs. We'd have an upper jaw, lower jaw, bite, and then a scan body catalog, just like we talked about earlier. You'll also notice that as we were selecting things here, there was no option of what height tie base or scan post we were using from True Abutment. There's no GH 1, 2, 3, 4. You do not have to put it in there. The way that those GH systems is they basically trick the CEREC system. So you don't tell it anything. They're just varying the height. Like I said, the only thing the machine knows is that pyramid on the top. It has no idea how high or how low or the distance between the implant and the pyramid. All it knows is the pyramid. So all they do is they're just making one taller than the other and extending that length. So don't worry about which height they're using. Yes? Uh-huh. So Dentsply, Sirona, others.
Oh, this one. Okay.
And then, yep. And then you can scroll down to NBA. Keep going all the way to the bottom. There it is, NBA 5.0.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, so let's pretend that we took our scans. We did really well, so we move forward and we go to the model phase. So here you can see our scan body is intact. See how we've got it nicely connected to the gingiva and everything like that. This happens to be a GH2 in this particular case, but it doesn't matter. I usually go back and I will check the model axis and make sure that things look lined up there. And in this case, it's not. There's a reason for that, but so let's go ahead and center that. So we'll put it in the arch. We'll center those, center the midline there. Make sure that Curvis B, Curve Wilson, everything's lined up there. So it looks good. Click OK. Trim area. So here you probably rarely, if ever, use the trim tool on normal CEREC. But what the trim tool does is, remember how I said earlier that what that baseline meant? So the baseline controls where it goes from horizontal to vertical. If you want to kind of give it an idea of where you want that to be, it's actually going to be where you trim it. So the trim tool works very much like the cut tool in Edit Model, if any of you ever use that. But basically you can go across like that and you can kind of tell it where you want it to trim it. And this is going to be kind of where it's going to start that transition. And if you ever get it on the Edit Model or the trim tool, if you ever get it where it selects the wrong thing and you go, wait, I don't want that, I want this, all you do is go to the side that's kind of translucent and double click it and it'll switch. It just sometimes doesn't know what you want. So now we can move forward and we can go to Edit Baseline and we can see what that looks like. So here, it's not really very helpful because we can't see the other teeth. So you can toggle on your scan body upper catalog and see how that compares to the other teeth. So overall, doesn't look too bad. I would say maybe it's a little bit rotated, very slightly. And if you wanted to, you could redraw this line. And sometimes you can't quite see it because it's under the gingiva. So you can make these things slightly translucent and look through that. Okay, that actually doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty parallel. But I'll show you what it looks like. If it really came out sideways, rather than redrawing that line and then the proposal might come out a little bit funky, you can actually revert back to the model axis and you can move this around. So watch what happens when I move this like that. Okay, so we'll click OK. We'll move forward to edit baseline. And then we recalculate it. So see how it rotated around just a little bit? So before this buckle was further out here. Now it's a little bit straighter. If I go the other way, watch what happens if we go like this. And I mean, we wouldn't make giant movements like this, but just look how rotated it is now. So if you got something like this, make sure you go back and look at your model axis and make sure that you got that lined up correctly. Otherwise, you're gonna have a fun time. Let me get rid of this here. I just have a little piece of gingiva there. Okay. All right, so that looks pretty good there. Again, like I said, you can modify it if you want. You can to your heart's content, but we can always make changes afterwards. If you want to see the underside, this is what I was talking about with the model base, this stone-looking stuff back here. If you just uncheck that model base right here, we can see through the bottom now. I would pretty much always have that off when we're working on implants. If you don't have that option in your software, your menu is probably condensed. So when you first get your machine, there's a little box right here that condenses these menus. So sometimes it'll only show like upper jaw and lower jaw, and it won't give you these options. So if you don't have that option on your machine, double check that. If we used gingiva mask, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. You don't have to do this on yours, but this is what it's going to try and give you, right? It's going to try and copy that gingival mask. Well, we don't really want that to be the emergence profile of our crown. That's not going to look great. So that's pretty much always why we leave it off. It's going to give us it's going to do a better job without it. So now we'll move forward to design. We'll have the machine propose us a crown. Let's see what it looks like. Not too bad. So this is the kind of stuff you get. If we would have used a custom healer, we probably would have gotten a better proposal. This distal contact would have been closed. And this is the thing that I'm talking about right here. So if you can't turn off your model box because you can't see it, you need to expand the menu right here. So if you click this button, it'll change that back to full view. Okay, that's how pretty much all the machines, and that's true of any of these menus. This is just a side note. They can either be expanded or not. So things like that. So if you're not seeing things, then that's why. I think some of yours look like this. I don't know if anybody ever plays with this. I really like designing my restorations with this restoration color option off because it allows you to see contours a lot better. If I'm showing things to the patient, I'll usually turn it on because it looks a little prettier. But it's hard to see contours when it's this kind of glossy color. So I take it off and you can really see the contours a lot better. So the best way to fix this this used to be called BioJaw in the past, but on a restoration like this, you could probably, it's close enough. We could use the shape tool and we could probably bulk it out. But I would just go back to this positioning step and I would modify this positioning. So it looks a little bit rotated, which is probably why it came out like that. So basically when you're messing around in this positioning step, you're telling the computer, you're giving the computer a starting spot. So it's gonna adapt it from here to create the contacts and the occlusion that you want, but you're basically telling it, hey, this is where I want you to start with, and then I want you to kind of work from there. So it was starting with a crown like this, which is not stellar. So we'll straighten it out. And then now it has open contacts on the mesial and the distal, so I'm going to use the scale tool, and I'm going to make it a little bit wider and close those contacts. And now, when we move forward, it's going to repropose that restoration, and hopefully it'll do a good job. Nope, still left it open slightly. So we can use our shape tool, anatomical, and we can drag that distal out. Like that. We could have also used the scale tool. There's, you know, there's so many different ways. There's a button right here, scale tool. We could have dragged that whole side out as well. So there's that. Actually, I'll probably end up doing that because I think that'll probably look better. There are so many different ways. And if you ever mess it up like that and you want to undo it, there's a button right here that's recalculate. You click apply and it'll just start over from the beginning. So let's do this. Let's do the scale tool and let's just bring that guy out like that. There we go. Looks pretty good. So you guys know how to design a crown. I'm not going to go all the way through everything, you know. Make sure that our fissure is done. We've got our minimal thickness on there. There's no minimal thickness issues on this crown. So you can go through and use your normal tools and get the cuss tips and whatnot. This is not a CEREC basic training class, but let's go to the important part here, that tissue contact, okay? This is what's different. So looking from underneath here, this is what it looks like. If you change that restoration translucency a little bit, transparency a little bit, now we can see, well, that's quite a bit of compression on that tissue right there. That's probably going to be pretty uncomfortable for the patient. So we can go back in there and we can use our tools, probably the smooth tool. Usually when you're working with implants, I have the strength up pretty high. I don't think I ever work with it in the 70s when I'm working chairside on traditional crowns. But because you're making large adjustments, something high like that is really helpful. So we'll go through and scale it back from the underside. Just like that. That's looking a little bit better. And then it's still a little bit convex, as you can see. So we want to make that nice S-curve. We want to make it a little bit more concave. So there's a couple ways you can do that. You can either use shape circular and you can make it kind of, make the circle a little bit smaller and you can drag it in like this and you can just start that convex shape. Okay, and if we look from the side, still not quite, maybe a little bit more. You can also use the form minus tool. I'm gonna turn the strength down just a little bit there. And you can subtract a little bit from there. And then that might be a little bit too ditched now, so then I'll come back with the smooth tool and we'll rebuild that just a little bit, just to smooth it out. Just to make sure you get that nice and smooth, okay? So now we've kind of got that little bit better shape there. For me, this is probably about right as far as tissue compression that I like, okay? So with a little bit of convexity or concavity there, that's nice. This is too heavy. The buckle is going to be too heavy because it's too rounded, it's too convex. But with a little S-curve, I think this is pretty reasonable. Maybe slightly lighter than that, if anything, but not much. So same thing here on the mesial. We can go through and make that just a little bit more concave. I almost always come back with the smooth tool afterwards, just to make sure that I get it nice and smooth. And when you get closer and it's, you know, sometimes it's hard to look from the buccal or the lingual because the model blocks you out, you can turn the model off now and look. And sometimes I'll turn off the contacts too because they get in the way. And that really lets you see, like, there was a pretty big shelf there. So I'll come back in and I'll just, a lot of smooth tool usage to smooth that out. But you can see how we're really developing that nice shape now. The tissue's gonna like that. It doesn't like this. Good. So that looks pretty reasonable to me. Every way we look, maybe right here, could use a little bit more. And this is stuff, I mean, you just get better at it the more you do it. So there we go. There's our crown. You know, I didn't do much design work here. We could probably bulk this out a little bit and things like that to make it look a little bit better. But that's very similar to your chairside work. Okay. If we were going to split this case, okay, so you guys can stay where you are. I'm just gonna quickly change mine to to a cement retained crown. All right, so now we've done the exact same thing, right? So we've got our crown here. The only difference is now we've got this split tool right here. So all we do at the end is we say, yes, great, I would like to split it. We hit apply. It's going to go ahead and split the restoration for us. And boom, there we go. Now we've got a custom abutment, and you can see at the bottom, let me dock this over here. You see at the bottom, now we have two options. This is kind of like when you're working on a bridge. We have the abutment and we have the crown. So we can choose between the two, okay? So here, we can still, as we're on the abutment tool, we can go through. We've got all of our tools that we can use. We can scale. So if we don't have these other options selected, we can scale occlusally. We can move things up and down. So we can select different ways. This kind of works like your shape anatomical. So you either select, the axial wall, or here we're selecting the margin. And this is how you move that margin down below the gingiva. Okay, so you can see here, we can move that down and make it more subgingival, or just add it however you want. Something like that. On the lingual, maybe we want to bring it up a little bit. And things like that. Here, if we go here, you can change the kind of the margin ramp. You can make it more of a chamfer or more of a shoulder. And then you can do the same thing radially as well. So we can bring this wall out. We can make the abutment bigger. As you can see, we have a minimal thickness issue right here. So we can avoid that by just bringing that buckle out a little bit and bulking out that size of that custom abutment a little bit more. And after you make all of these modifications, then this is where you need to go, and it's extremely important. Before you mill it, the last step before you mill it, you check these two boxes. You're going to go radial, and you're going to drag it one way, and you can see how it's smoothing out all of those little indentations and things like that. So you just want to keep going until that thing is buttery smooth, okay? And then same thing occlusally, okay? You're going to go like this, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to smooth out that whole thing, just on the margin, okay? This doesn't matter as much because it's just moving it up and down. But as we go here, we're just smoothing out that margin and getting it perfectly smooth, so we don't have any under milling, anything like that the burrs cannot get to, and you don't have a restoration that's not going to seat. The last thing I want to show you here is, I'm going to change this back to a screw retained crown. If we had something with a minimal thickness issue, okay? So I'm going to purposely, like I said, remember it won't let you mill if you have a minimal thickness issue. So I'm going to purposefully make a minimal thickness issue. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just go like this, and we'll just bring the central groove way down. There we go. Okay, so now we got a problem, right? So normally in chairside, if you're working with a regular crown, you could click mill and you could mill that. Here, it's going to give you an error, and it's going to say this: the restoration does not meet minimal thickness requirements for this material. We can automatically try and correct it, or so do you want me to do that? So if you say no, it's just going to say, well, too bad. So you go back, okay? If we do it again and we say yes, depending on the size of the minimal thickness area, it does an okay job. In this case, I probably would not call that acceptable. It just made it flat fill-in. That might affect your occlusion. So if it's a really large area of minimal thickness, so see how it just left it flat there? If it's a really large area of minimal thickness, I would go back and fix it yourself, okay? If it's something really small, so see like this little area right here, if you go back, let me see if I can get it to do it. So sometimes there's little areas, let's see if that'll do it. No, it didn't, okay. Sometimes there's areas that you can't see, right? It might be one teeny tiny speck of blue somewhere, okay? And unless you zoomed in like this big or something like that. But if you're looking at it normally, and you can't see it, it'll still give you the error. So let's say you didn't see that, right? You go, well, I don't know, it looks fine. And you move forward, and it gives you the error, and you're certain that you looked around on that, and you go, I didn't see anything, it looked fine to me. You can probably click OK, and if it's something that small, it did a good job filling it in. You don't really see it. So that's fine, okay? But the important part is if it's a huge area and you click yes, remember when we jumped back and it saved it? Well, it just destroyed your design. So now you get to design it over again. Okay, that's the important thing. So if you had a really large, or you're not sure, just click no and double check. Okay, don't just click yes and then you go, oh my God, it just totally destroyed my whole underside that I was working on for 15 minutes. And then you have to redo it. So if you're not sure, just click no, go back and double check. But if you search around and you really can't find where that large minimal thickness area is, it's probably fine. It's probably a tiny speck somewhere and it'll do an okay job filling it in, okay? So there we go. There's our crown. If you look here, there's no tools to move that sprue, right? It's just gonna put it wherever it wants. And we can click mill. So that's it. So go through, play around with it. I'm just gonna roam around for a little bit. We got a couple more minutes over here before we jump to the other side. But anybody questions as we're designing? Anything I can help you with? Go through, make sure you do your own design. Questions? Good? No? Good? Okay. Good? No problem? Yeah? Okay. Going okay? Yeah? Okay over here? Yeah. Uh-huh.
So we have how do we fix that? Because that's the...
No, so you're just seeing it through the crown. So if you go to restoration and turn that all the way up, it's not actually there.
Okay.
You're just seeing it through. Yep. So no problem. Yep. Questions? Anything? Going okay?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Questions over here?
Going over to the tissue pressure.
Okay.
No things with it. I wasn't paying attention when you were talking about how you can tell how much.
Okay, so expand this menu right here. And now go to restoration and turn that down to about maybe 50% or so. So now, and then scroll back up and turn upper jaw back all the way to 100. There you go. So now you can see through the crown and you can see how far it's pushing through the tissue.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the best way. Yeah, so if your menu is not expanded like that, you'll never see it.
Okay.
You'll never know. Yeah, so that's helpful. I would also usually design it with that color model off. So if you go to Analyzing Tools on the right side, bottom. Oh no, sorry, not that. You can uncheck that. Not that. Uncheck that menu. You just get it out of the way. That square. Yeah.
This one?
No, the square. Yeah, you can close that. That's fine. Yeah. So go to Analyzing Tools and click the box at the top. There's a, yep. Now, if you scroll down, see color, restoration color, you can turn that off. Just uncheck the box. So no, not color model. Restoration color. Above it. Yeah, there you go. So now it's just a little bit easier to see this. It's not as shiny.
Oh, okay.
So now you can use your tools from the underside and get that emergence profile to look more like that one.
Okay.
Questions?
Yeah, I was kind of listening to you earlier, so just messed it up trying to figure out what you were saying. So you said you turn on upper jaw.
Yep, you got it right.
So how do I, obviously that's messed up, but how do I still know like what's enough tissue pressure?
So it's just going to be a personal preference thing. There's no indicators. It's just kind of knowing how much it's coming through the gingiva.
Is that too much? For you, would that be too much?
I think that's pretty reasonable.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I think that's pretty reasonable. Yep, with a nice S-curve like that, I don't think you're going to have too much of a problem.
So, okay, so
I would probably go back with the smooth tool.
Yeah.
Maybe lower this down a little bit, maybe to like 70-ish% or so. Make the size a little bit bigger, and then don't drag it. You're just going to do some clicks and just kind of smooth that area out. There you go. Yeah, and if you find that one spot of minimal thickness there, you can yep. So if you just use the smooth tool, it'll probably fill that in. So just drag across that area.
Okay.
And it'll see how it's filling it in slightly. Yeah.
Okay, and then before you go,
Mhm.
really quick, so I wanted to try the split thing. I
Okay.
didn't quite understand.
So go,
between full scale.
and then just, so just choose whatever you want.
Okay, so you did split,
Mhm.
apply.
Perfect, yep.
Yes. Okay, so what I didn't understand was under here.
Mhm.
What do you, like this one, for example, my margin's above the gum.
Yep, so you'll use scale occlusal and then highlight it. So just like this, the oh, sorry, go, oh, actually, let's see. Make that bigger. Right click and make it a little bit bigger.
What do I have?
Right click, yeah, right click and drag up a little bit. There you go. So it's just like a scale tool. So now you can click and move it down, just like that.
Oh, and it moves the whole crown down.
Correct.
And you would take
So
it
that's
down.
why you always have to come back and use that smooth tool afterwards, because you create these little indents like that.
So you bring it all the way down to the margin.
Yep. Yep.
Like that.
Yeah, I would probably put it a little bit sub G on the buckle, because this is going to be an opaque abutment. So it's going to be really ugly.
Okay, and then
The lingual, you can bring it up a little bit if you wanted. And so you can make that as big as you want. So you can make the orange dot a little bit bigger, so it makes it more rounded too.
Okay.
And then if you wanted to fix this minimal thickness area, you can go to radial. And same thing, I would make the circle a little bit larger. So just right click in it, yeah, and make it, just drag up. Yeah, there we go, okay. So now you can kind of go just around it. Yep, just like that. And then, so say you're done now, so you're gonna go scale whole and smooth out. And click this bottom one too.
And what does this do?
So that's gonna smooth it, it's gonna get rid of, so go back to the buckle and just click anywhere on that axial wall. Yep, so just, yep, good. Click and slide either up or down, which way is gonna, one way is gonna make it smoother. So
Slide up. Oh, no.
it's not consistent which direction it's gonna be, so you just have to go both ways and see which one. It's either up or down, or it might be right and left. Yeah, so go to the right, I think. Yeah, so see how it's taking away all those little jagged? So that's the stuff that makes it not seat.
And then what about like the cusp edges? Would
That's
I just
okay.
smooth it?
But yeah, you can smooth them. Yep.
Like that kind of?
Totally fine. Yep.
Okay, and then the minimal thickness, is it each one has to meet the minimal thickness, this one and then the crown?
The crown does not, technically. So yeah, exactly. But the abutment will need to. Yes. Yep, you're welcome. Everybody doing okay? Got their crown designed? All right, when you guys are done with the crown design, let's head over to the other room and let's do some staining and glazing. We're not coming back to this room, so you can grab your stuff and take it over to the other side.
Well, for the final time this season, I'm Jeff Kraft, and welcome to another episode of True Abutment's Interview. First off, I want to start by saying thank you so much for tuning in each week as we've brought you some amazing stories from dentists, dental lab owners, educators, but on this episode, it's a little bit special. I wanted to bring you to Irvine, California, the headquarters of True Abutment, to introduce you to the people that make this great company tick and made it such a joy for me to be a part of. Come on. I always love coming here to True Abutment, and of course seeing Katie.
Hey, Jeff.
How are you?
I'm good.
You know, we look like a couple of Christmas ornaments right now.
Yes.
I got the red, you got the green.
I love it. I love it. And hey, this is the main seminar room I told you about. And this is one of the reasons why we actually chose this building. We're trying to focus more on educating dentists, inviting them to really learn our workflow and actually meet the team and stuff right here. Do you see this?
Right here. Awesome. awesome. These are pool sticks. There's like 30 different pool sticks made into really a piece of art. And this entire building really is an architectural masterpiece.
It really is. So speaking of the seminar space, we actually have a second area over here with 12 workstations with all the computers and software set up for the dentist to learn hands-on.
Yeah, I guess so. You know what I love about this building? Not only that it's beautiful just visually, but I mean visually you can see outside Irvine, beautiful Southern California through, there's so many windows here.
Yes, I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. And guess what? We're approaching our marketing room.
Oh man,
and here we come. I have Waylon and Naya to introduce you to.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Naya. How are you?
Nice to see you.
All right, so I'm going to chat with you, Naya, because Waylon's working on something really important. I don't know what it is. Tell me, what is it you do with the company here at True Abutment?
I am the photographer and content coordinator here on our marketing team. So on any given day, I could be designing an email blast or editing photos, but the work never stops.
Yeah, it never stops. With True Abutment, the interview aspect, what do you like about the episodes?
Well, one of my favorite parts of the interview is just the connection that you get to see and that our team captures. We have a great chemistry here on our marketing team, so it's lovely to see that also at other businesses that we work with and our clients as well. So
and I gotta say, your photos are always amazing, by the way.
Jeff.
Waylon, you're not gonna get away from this interview. How long have you been with True Abutment?
I've been with True Abutment for about 5 months now.
Okay, fairly new, fairly new. What do you like best about the episodes?
I really love how we're able to get a better insight with our clients, and we get to really see how they function and work.
Yeah, it really is. You know, notice he didn't mention me at all. You know, that's fine. Get back to work, you guys. Get back
Come on, Jeff. Let's go. Let's go. I'm going to take you away from these people. So that is our accounting department.
Oh, that's how I get paid. Okay.
And hey,
HR. I'm in there a lot. I get in trouble quite a bit.
Our CEO's room.
That's John's office.
Yes, he's not there. No. And this is the sales department.
Oh, got it.
Hey, Oliver is waiting for us. I'm gonna just leave you two at it.
All right, I'll meet you. I'll meet you down the hallway.
Okay.
Oliver, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. All right, I want to chat with you because your story is quite a bit different than most of the rest of the team that's here at True Abutment. You're actually a dentist in Europe. You came over to the States and you teamed up with True Abutment. Tell me about how this all got started.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it is. So basically, I was always interested in dentistry. Finished school there, practiced dentistry for about 2 years, and then I moved here with my family. So I definitely wanted to get back into dentistry here again. And I just found True Abutment, started working with them, and it's been a great journey since then.
So what do you like most about coming to work? It's obviously a fantastic team. It's a very diverse team, which I really love. What's your favorite parts about coming to work?
Just, you know, like coming every day and like, you know, like hanging out with all the guys here, you know, doing a lot of hard work, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And, you know, like seeing the company like growing and improving every day, you know, that's definitely like something that I enjoy a lot.
Such a big asset to the team here at True Abutment. Hey, nice chatting with you.
Same here.
I'm sure you got something going on. I don't understand dentistry. Lots of calls?
Yeah.
There you go. I want to come meet up with Katie. I'm coming.
Oh, there you are.
He's a good guy. I like chatting with Oliver.
Good. I'm glad you guys had fun. And hey, this is the customer care department and our last hall. Yes, this is the busiest section in the building. And hey, there are Angelina and Aria.
Angelina and Aria. I'm going to chat with them. All right, I'll see you in a bit.
Okay.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Nice to see you. Nice to see you. All right, Aria, tell me your story. How long have you been with True Abutment?
Roughly 7 months, not too long.
Okay, so not too long. What about you?
About 6 months.
All right, so what do you guys like about working with the company?
Everybody's super family oriented here.
Yeah.
So everybody accepts you. It's like a big family, like I said.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy working with everybody. I mean, we go all over the country, meet so many great people, but the True Abutment team is just a lot of fun. We have a pool table in here. I mean, come on, this is a fun place.
Oh, yeah.
What's your favorite part?
Right. I would say similar, where I think everyone was super welcoming to me, so generous, and yeah, the environment is really great here.
What are your roles? What is it you do? What's your title?
So I work in production in the CAM department.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about you?
I'm part of the customer care team. We process the customer abutment, custom cases, component orders, and all.
Okay, got it. You guys watch the episodes?
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What do you guys like about the episodes?
I think they're so entertaining. I think that you're great.
Oh, thanks. Tell me more. It's okay. Keep it going.
I think it's a great way for us to really see the clients, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I agree. What about you? What do you think?
We get an inside look on like all the labs that we talk to, we get faces and connect the voices to that. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. It was great chatting with you guys. I know you guys got to get back to work. That's way too much work for me. All right, I'll see you guys. Pool table. Come on. How do you keep going without shooting one stroke here? That wasn't very good. Katie! Katie! Katie? Oh, sorry, you're not Katie. Katie! There you are.
Hey.
Been looking all over for you.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I was with these guys.
Oh, I'm glad you got these guys here,
Yes.
JP. Kevin, thanks for showing up and hanging out with us here today. I want to chat with all of you guys. It's perfect timing that you brought everybody together. It's been a process, building this show. How did the journey all start? What's your role, first off, with the company?
So I work as the marketing manager now. I started out as sales, but now I'm in charge of the marketing department. And like you said, interview has been quite a journey for me personally, because it was one of the first projects that I started as the marketing manager here. We started our first filming, if you remember, back in November of 2020. During the whole pandemic, we just lost all the opportunities to go meet our clients, and it was really tough to get them on the phone, and even harder than the usual. So we were like, okay, we got to come up with a way to really reconnect with our clients. If they can't come to us, we're going to go to them. We're going to bring the crew, we're going to bring food, gifts, and make a fun project for them.
It's been awesome. It's been so fun. I had no idea the journey that it was going to take me, around the country and introducing me into the dental world, which I don't know a whole lot about. I've learned a lot since then. And it's really been impressive to see what you guys have done, putting this whole storyboard together. And my job is just to help those individuals that we're interviewing tell their story. All right, so JP, tell me about you. How did you get started with the company?
I'm the regional sales manager. I've been working for the company a little more over than 5 years. I know Katie since then. She used to be young back then. So
you used to be young.
Yeah.
Not anymore,
used to be young. So it was on our 20s, same age.
Okay.
So that's when I started with True Abutment, walking around, talking to doctors, talking to lab managers.
Got it. So from regional sales, Kevin, let's talk about what you do here with True Abutment.
Yeah, so Jeff, it's weird being on this side of the camera.
Yeah, you travel a lot with us to
exactly,
all the cities.
Yeah. So I had the pleasure of working for True Abutment for about 4.5 years now, almost. When I first started here, I was actually part of the logistics team. And then, as time went on, we were a very small company before. And then I remember Katie was saying that she needed more people for her sales department. So, I was just like, maybe I should take this opportunity to step up, and then probably advance to the company. So I've been working for the business development department with Peter. He's one of our directors over here for the past 3 years now. And this is where I am. And I'm here traveling with you now, Jeff, to all the different labs.
Isn't it crazy traveling all over and seeing all these stories? Did you guys ever expect, when you guys see these episodes, did you ever expect to get the stories and hear all of these amazing, amazing stories from where these dental lab owners, these dentists, these educators, where they started and where they become?
Yeah, so definitely it's been a great ride. I've been talking to some of these customers for 2 to 3 years and never, met them face to face. And it's interesting the type of people and personalities you meet when you finally get to, see them face to face after talking like brothers over the phone. And, I really enjoy that. And I guess I'm very blessed in order to see all this kind of stuff.
It's been a lot of fun traveling with you, being a part of your talking to the clients. And then I go in there and chat with the clients with cameras surrounding. It's really a great machine that we have here putting this show together. So when the idea of putting together content and releasing it every week, when this all first started, interview series, this is going to be great. How did that process all start? Who was involved? And what are some of the other crazy ideas that you had and before you decided this is where we're going to go?
Okay, so the craziest person behind all this is the CEO. John. He always
he is a wild man. He really is a wild man. I love that guy.
So he gives me all these weird, bizarre ideas, and I have to work with it, right? And I have to realize it for him. So starting from John's idea, we, Kevin and Peter, the sales director, as well as JP, but you've already met the other two who are not here with us today, Jae Kim and Sun Kim. Without them, we couldn't have done this far either, because they've gotten us introduced to some of the biggest, education centers that you visited, along with sales and marketing. We have a lot of other departments like purchasing and accounting. Everybody in the company really tries to help. And there's so many different parts of the coordination that need to go into pulling through projects like this. So, what can I say? It's just been a great experience working with a lot of different parts.
Everyone didn't know